across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, June the 25th. Here's what's coming up. Can you blame Donald Trump for his withering response to the grim news that Britain is set to get an even more disastrously left-wing Prime Minister than yesterday's dud Keir Starmer? Like most of the world, the President had never heard of Andy Burnham, but is beginning to realise the UK's new socialist leader is, and I quote, extremely liberal. He's the mayor of a town or something, added Trump. Oozing contempt. So here's the deal. After two-tier Keir's unique brand of international diplomacy plunged Britain's special relationship with America into the toilet, it looks set to get a whole lot worse. Onwards and downwards with Andy. Brilliant. 03444 499 1000. Also, on today's action-packed show, Labour's cabinet cretins erupt in fury after the majestic Kemi Badenoch destroyed every single one of them in an astonishing Prime Minister's questions that left Starmer and his treacherous ministers reeling. Chief among her victims, desperate little Chancellor Rachel Reeves and useless Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, who she branded, and I quote, a spiteful class warrior. But she grew up in poverty, protested two-year Keir. That was his defence. That Bridget Phillipson, you say she's useless, you say 0% of teachers think she's doing a good job, but she grew up in poverty. As I just said to Ian Collins, so bloody what? These Labourites, they think if you come from a poor background, that means you can do no wrong. That means you walk on water. It's like reverse snobbery. Pathetic, isn't it? So, 03444 499 1000. Let me know what you think about that. In other news, more shock migrant crisis horrors as it is revealed that A, 50,000 illegal migrants are missing in Britain, and B, 60,000 known migrants in Britain have no right to be here. Isn't that special? 03444 499 1000. Plus, the King is set to reveal his tax returns tonight, the first monarch ever to do so, amid growing demands from the British people for far more financial transparency and accountability from the notoriously secretive royal family. About time, eh? 03444 499 1000. Also, a left-wing Danish minister announces plans to ban Islamic calls to prayer in a bid to stop the Scandinavian country sounding like a suburb of Islamabad. I'm quoting him there, that's not me saying that. And the local council that has apologised. That's back here in Britain. A local council has apologised. You won't believe this one. After handing out parking tickets to motorists whose cars were stuck in the station car park after last Friday's tragic train crash. They couldn't get back to their cars. Some of them were on the damn train. Some of them were injured, badly injured. And the local council's handing out, going out to their cars and putting parking tickets on them. They've apologised for that. They damn well should do. Why did they do it in the first place? Unbelievable. These town hall tyrants are a scourge because, meanwhile, as record temperatures soar, other councils are forcing homeowners to rip out their air conditioning units. Net zero rules, innit? They want keep the councils, the coming around and say, you've got to take that out. That's against net zero rules. Climate change, climate emergency, you've got to get that out. So I go, well, how am I going to keep my house cool? Oh, well, install ceiling fans or open the windows. How about no? It's out of my house. I can do what I like with it, can't I? Unbelievable. Get your nose out of our lives. 0344 499 1000. And finally, a British so-called influencer is facing a firing squad execution after stabbing a British guy to death in Dubai. She claims she killed him with a kitchen knife in self-defence to stop him repeatedly punching her. Is she a murderer or a victim of domestic violence? That is the question. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together, and let's go straight over to my first guest. He's a senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. I think he's the only man from the right of the political fold who's not at the ARC conference in London. A little bit of internal business news for you here. It's been a nightmare trying to get guests all week, Philip. They're all down at bloody ARC.
Listen, it's been great. It's been great for me. I've never been off the television. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I've only got you because I'm desperate, mate. You know, seriously. No, obviously I'm very pleased to have you on the show, as I always am. Let's have a little listen first, Philip, to Keir Starmer, incredibly setting out his record on immigration. Here he goes.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, you know, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So a huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
What planet is he on? What planet is he on? You know, one of the tests of a departing Prime Minister is, does he leave the country in a better place than when he took over the reins? Well, look, he's sort of setting himself up, isn't he? He's like a guy going, oh, right, I'm walking this plank. Oh, look, there's some sharks in there. I think I'll dive in. You know, this is his problem. His problem is this. That he is leaving the country in a far worse state than when he took over. 2-year Keir, 2 years of utter incompetence that has left this country a lot worse off. By the way, more than 1,500 migrants have come across the channels in the last week illegally. And we learned today there are 50,000 migrants are missing. They are missing. We don't know where the hell they are. And meanwhile, there are 60,000 known migrants in Britain who have no right to be here. And this Prime Minister, this pathetic little man, is saying he's done a good job. He's got to stop this. He's humiliating himself, isn't he?
Well, he is humiliating himself, and he's perpetrating this fantasy world that he's constructed around himself over the last couple of years. But I think the test of a departing Prime Minister is whether people hate that Prime Minister or not. And wherever he goes, he gets a chorus of Keir Starmer is a, I won't say it, but we all know what it is. Okay, if people are, if that rings out in the air wherever you go, then maybe you've not done your job that well. As you say, all of these figures that they massage and that they present in ridiculously weird ways, they don't mean anything. We know because we look, we can see. All you have to do is walk down the street. You know that the country has become exponentially worse in 2 years. It really has become palpably different in 2 years, and that is down to him. The borders have not been at all under control. They've tried time and time again with ridiculous little gimmicks, none of which have worked at all. We have day after day, and we've covered so many of them over the last couple of years. Terrible, terrible stories about migrants, illegal or legal, raping and murdering women and children. That is the reality of his premiership. And what we see here, though, I mean, the one thing that I was just looking at that then, Kev, and just looking at his body language, the one thing I get there, he's relieved. He's almost quite jaunty, actually, because he can trot out all of this garbage and he's not going to get any comeback for it because nobody cares anymore. People are looking to the next stooge, the next left-wing idiot, and thinking, oh my God, how is he going to wreck the country? Keir Starmer is yesterday's man. He doesn't count anymore. He cannot harm us anymore, unless, of course, he goes back to being a human rights lawyer, and then he'll
probably form a new chamber, a legal chamber, with his also certain to be fired mate, Richard Hermer, that cretinous Attorney General who's still trying to give away the Chagos Islands. Now, this guy, Starmer, just told us that he's really sorted the migrant crisis out. Smash the gangs. Remember that? Didn't smash any gangs. Spent a lot of money not smashing any gangs. One in, one out remains a music hall joke. It's just a farce. And let's have a look at the statistics. 75,976 migrants have crossed the channel since he became Prime Minister, and he thinks he's done a good job. This is the last week's numbers. Illegal migrants coming across the channel for the last week, going back to the 18th of June. I'm going to do it day by day. 18th of June. 392, 19th of June, 406, 20th of June, 94, 21st of June, 310, 22nd of June, 27, 23rd of June, 186, and yesterday a bumper 221. And he says he's gone a long way towards solving the migrant crisis, that he's made it better. It's got absolutely, palpably, demonstrably worse. He's got to stop lying to us about his record, hasn't he?
I'll tell you how much worse it got. Okay, if you go back to 2018, 2019, any time before 2022, which was the high point, you take one of those days, in the one in the 200s, that was the number for the year. Okay, that's how bad it is. That's how far he's fallen. That's how terribly he's failed the British public. I mean, this is the scandal of our times, I think, because everything else comes from it. The idea that mass immigration has torn apart the fabric of our society. It's attacked our culture. It's made us into a sectarian, balkanized society. Yeah. We've said this time and time again. It's the one thing. Actually, if you had to boil it down to one particular thing that they needed to deal with to have a crack at solving everything else, it would be one, mass immigration, and I'm talking about legal immigration there because it's out of control, but also illegal immigration. If they could have got a handle or at least begun to deal with it, then we would actually have been okay, because everything else would have kind of fallen into place given time and given enough effort. But they fall at the first hurdle. They can't do the main thing, the big threat. They can't be, mainly because it's too far gone for the systems we've got and the philosophy they have. Yeah. Because deep down in their heart of hearts, they think that mass immigration is a good thing.
Of course they do. Of course
so
they
ingrained. Do. But the thing is, it's so ingrained, they cannot possibly really ultimately get to grips with it and challenge the silliness of their own beliefs.
It's absolutely. And this guy, Starmer, he's a conceited little man, arrogant, conceited little man. He's clearly going to spend his last 3 weeks or so in Downing Street just constantly telling us what a successful Prime Minister he's been. To echo Kemi Badenoch in that barnstorming PMQ performance yesterday, if Starmer, you've been such a roaring success, why has your party sacked you? That's what's happened. The Labour Party have sacked him because he has been such an unmitigated disaster. So, Starmer, if you're watching, just stop lying to us. You lied to us for 2 years, and now you're lying again, telling us that how wonderful you've been. What a great Prime Minister. You have been, Starmer, if you're watching, the worst Prime Minister in modern history, and I include Liz Truss. Now, talking of Kemi Badenoch, let's have a little recap, a little look again out of her. I think it might have been the greatest Prime Minister's questions I've ever seen. She went through that cretinous cabinet, that useless bunch of losers who've ruined this country working for Starmer. One by one, she sort of chopped their heads off. And she said at one point, oh, look at them, I don't like it up them. They did look like a row of smacked back sides. They hated it. But she was brilliant. Let's remind ourselves of Kemi in the Commons yesterday.
Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Just, someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster.
She sort of defied parliamentary tradition there, convention. I mean, she really went for them, and she absolutely skewered Rachel Reeves and said, oh, look at her, she lives at number 11, next door to the Prime Minister. But when the Prime Minister, her boss, made his resignation speech, she was nowhere to be seen. She was busy making her way to Andy Burnham's selfie photo call. What a traitor. But that attack on Bridget Phillipson, who is a spiteful little caste warrior, by the way, she really is. But then again, she can't be wrong because, she grew up on a council estate. That's Keir Starmer's defence of her. You can't say that. She grew up in poverty. What the hell has that got to do with anything? It's ridiculous. But anyway, this attack on Bridget Phillipson triggered this off-camera massive bust-up afterwards, apparently in the corridors of Westminster. Bridget Phillipson and Liz Kendall, the no-mark science secretary, you can't say that, so they reached, when Kemi Badenoch said, oh, that lot don't like it up them, they proved it. They actually went for her, and Kemi just said, I'm going to carry on calling you a spiteful little class warrior because that's what you are. She absolutely slaughtered them. They're not up to her standard. They're not in the same class as her, are they? Bunch of idiots.
No. And she's treating them with contempt, actually, which says an awful lot about how she feels about them, but it echoes precisely how we feel about them. Let's just come back to what Starmer said there. Oh, she's from a working class background. She's from poverty. Big deal, as you say. So what? That is absolutely the problem with identity politics. It makes excuse after excuse after excuse for failure. We want the best people for the job. We don't want people in post because they are black, trans, women, whatever, and this is why the institutions are failing. This is why everything is just going to hell in a handcart. But there's something else as well. Her comeback was, oh, I'll put that on a t-shirt. Now that really does give you an insight into mentality. Her mentality is slogans on t-shirts. That's how he thinks, right? And you have to kind of say to yourself, no, love, you're in charge of the education system. It's about strategy, nuance, complexity. It isn't about slogans, but you've spent your whole life as a Labour MP sloganeering. And again, that's the problem. You add that kind of vacuousness to the identity politics, you know, I am a woman, I am black, I am this, I am that, I am the other. And you just understand completely in a very simple snapshot why everything is failing and why we desperately need these jokers out, and it's time for a change.
Yeah, I mean, Kemi Badenoch's having the time of her life. I mean, attacking that bunch of cretins in Starmer's cabinet is like shooting apples in a barrel. You can't miss. When Starmer said to her, "You're going to miss these exchanges," no, he's not. She has flattened him every single time. He just can't live with her. Burnham, let's see how he does. We look forward to that, I think. Philip, fantastic to have you on the show. I've got to go now because I'm just off to read Hugh Edwards' new Substack column. He's formed his own Substack. He's going to write his thoughts and we're all going to go and read them. He'll probably get a lot of people tuning in, as it were, and make quite a lot of money. Would you have a look at what Hugh Edwards has to say on Substack? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. I think he's a bit like Keir Starmer. He's in denial about how far he has fallen. And in a funny way, they cannot shed the shackles of their former status. You saw that Starmer is busy trying to preen himself and say, I've been a brilliant Prime Minister, basically because he can't bear the fact he's not going to be Prime Minister in about 3 weeks. And Hugh Edwards, with his Substack, talking about making a documentary as well, My Story. Don't want to know it, Hugh. You're a convicted child sex abuser. He too cannot take his loss of status. Therefore, he's constantly trying to get it back. Will you read Hugh Edwards' Substack? I must admit, I might have a look. But I'm a journalist, so seriously, should a convicted paedophile be writing his thoughts on Substack? 0344 499 1000. Next up, we'll go back to these shocking new migrant crisis statistics. 60,000 migrants here who are known about have no right to be here, and more than 50,000 illegal migrants are missing, completely missing. So that's right off the bat, it's 110,000 migrants that basically shouldn't be in the country. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Not to mention all the others that shouldn't be in the country. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a minute, I'm going to play that incredible clip again of Keir Starmer, our current Prime Minister, 2-year Keir, insisting that he's had a fantastic record on the migrant crisis. He's virtually solved it. How do you think he's done on the migrant crisis, Keir Starmer? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. He's telling Andy Burnham, his successor, don't lose control of migration. Well, you did, Starmer. Really, really badly, to say the least. Let's go over to my next guest. We'll talk about Starmer's incredible claim, and also we'll go back to these shock statistics that there's 110,000 migrants in this country who shouldn't be here. The known migrants, 60,000 or so of them, just shouldn't be here. We know they're here, they just have no right to be here. And then there are 50,000 migrants who've just gone completely missing. 75,976 migrants have crossed the Channel illegally since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, and yet, incredibly, he tells us he's done a good job on the migrant crisis. Your thoughts? 0344 499 1000. Let's go over to my next guest. She's Orla Minahan, the lead organiser of the Pink Ladies. Big campaigner against the Bell Hotel for asylum seekers, which now seems to have been closed. But let's not talk about that today, Orla, because I want to concentrate on these two shocking statistics. 60,000 migrants that we know about are here, but they have no right to be here. They've basically broken their visas, just stayed on when they're supposed to go home. That's 60,000. Meanwhile, another 50,000 illegal migrants are here, but they've gone completely missing. We've got no track of them whatsoever. Before I get your response to that shocking news, that's horrific, it really is. Here's Keir Starmer boasting about what a wonder he's been solving our migrant crisis. This isn't a joke. This isn't AI. This actually is him. Here we go.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the Channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
Is he in a padded cell there? Have they finally worked out that he's gone insane? What on earth is he talking about there, Orla?
Do you know what, Kevin? I actually do think that the man is mentally unwell, because everybody can see what an absolute disaster our asylum system is. So he's talking about the small boats coming over. In the last 2 weeks, 2,000 men, not children, not women, 2,000 men have crossed the Channel. That is over 10 hotels worth in 2 weeks. I was in Dover a few weeks ago with some of the ladies because we have a big protest on the 4th of July. We were checking things out to see where we could have our meeting point. We watched men being brought into Dover, being escorted out of their boats and onto a bus. No check, nothing. Almost as if welcoming.
Well, that's what we do. I mean,
right? And you can't. You know what it's like. If you were to go to Heathrow, Kevin, to go on holiday, and you didn't have your passport, or you would be given short shrift. They are literally welcoming them on shore. Here's your coach waiting to take you to your hotel, and this is happening every solitary day. Keir Starmer is a deluded lunatic. On the people that have gone missing, what happens, Kevin, is if your asylum fails, you will get a letter that goes to your hotel. So Mr. Smith gets a letter to the hotel and it says you have 21 days to vacate this hotel. 3 days before, the hotel will say, have you packed? You need to leave. And on that day, they have to leave the hotel. No one checks where they go. No one helps them leave. No one takes them.
They just disappear, right?
They just go. So no one, they just say, see you later. What do they think is going to happen? These men are going to go on Ryanair.com and book a flight back to wherever. It's absolute insanity.
Well, let's just talk about these 50,000 illegal migrants who've gone missing. Obviously, many of them in the way that you've just described. They're told to get out of asylum seeker hotels, but we don't bother to check where they might go. Among these 50,000 missing migrants, all of them illegal, we have no idea where they are 1,200 criminals. 1,200 law-breaking criminals are among them. So we have 50,000 migrants missing and 1,200 criminals among them.
And they're the ones we know about, Kevin. So I don't know whether, and I'm sure your listeners and viewers have seen this, every solitary day there is a rape against a young girl or woman in this country. There is a rape every 3 minutes. The rape statistics in the last 20 years have gone up 800%. Now, what has changed in those 20 years? There is only one thing that has changed, and that is the unprecedented amount of illegal migrants that are coming into this country. That is what is causing the rape epidemic. Yes, of course, indigenous white men rape women, of course they do, but the exponential growth in sexual assaults and rapes is because of this undocumented invasion of men.
Orla, I couldn't agree more. We have imported a sex crime crisis.
Yes.
And people say, oh, but it's white British men in this country commit the most rapes, the vast majority of rapes. Of course.
No, they don't.
Well, I mean, statistically they do, because there's about 25 million of them. They are.
Per head, of course.
But proportionally, for example, an Afghan migrant male is 22 times more likely to be arrested or prosecuted for a sex crime than a British white male.
And they're facts, Kevin. They're facts and the statistics, and they don't lie. And, we're seeing this every solitary day. Life's ruined. And that's what the whole Pink Ladies movement's about. We're not racist. We're not bigots. We're just women, mothers who have got kids and saying, how are you letting these men come into our country every solitary day unchecked? And then you wonder why they're committing these most heinous of crimes. And let me just point out, when you talk about Keir Starmer, do you know a man called Alex Norris? Kevin, do you know who he is? He is...
something to do with the Home Office, isn't he?
Correct. He is the Border Security and Asylum Minister, possibly the most useless individual in Parliament. And I mean, there are many of them, right? But he is an absolute...
I think
you're chocolate teapot, right?
That is not a controversial view of Alex Norris. I've been talking to Kim Bailey down at Crowborough. She runs. He's been a disaster there.
That's the first person that Burnham should sack. It's an absolute joke. My mother would do a better job. Well, this is.
I bet she would.
She would.
Anyone related to you, all I would trust to do a much better job. I've just got to ask you one last question. Keir Starmer, in that clip I played you, claims that the litmus test of a Prime Minister is that he leaves the country in a better state than when he took over. That's 2 years. I've been saying this is what he has to reflect upon. This country, after 2 years of Keir Starmer running it, is massively worse than it was when he took over. He says it's much better.
He's deluded. The man's a lunatic. And you know what, Andy, I'm not a Labour supporter. I'm not right. I'm not left wing. I've never voted Labour and I never will. But I cannot imagine that Andy Burnham could be any worse than Keir Starmer. I just can't imagine it, because I don't think it's possible. I am so glad that he has been ousted as Prime Minister, because it cannot simply get any worse than it is now, and we have got.
You say that, Orla. You say that. I hope to God you're right, but it could get. There may be trouble ahead. Listen, Orla, it's always great to have you on the show. Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's Orla Minahan. She's the lead organiser of the Pink Ladies and also a spokeswoman for Reform Britain. Next up, we're going to go over to the excellent editor-at-large of the Sun newspaper, Harry Cole. We'll get his view on some of what we've been talking about, some of these big stories of the day. So Harry Cole next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've had a thought. I'm declaring war on Keir Starmer's lies, and I think we all should. This guy is going around saying, I've made this country so much better. You know, that's the litmus test of a Prime Minister. Does he leave it in a better state than when he took over? And it is. It's much better. I've solved the migrant crisis. I've been remarkable on net zero. Internationally, I've made this up. Defence, fantastic. Let's not let this liar get away with this. If you're on social media, if you're on X, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, bombard it with your assessment of Keir Starmer. Let him know that we're not going to let him lie his way through his last 4 weeks as our pathetic Prime Minister. He's been a disaster. The country is materially worse than it was when he took over. That's why Labour are firing him. Don't let him get away with lying to us about what a superstar he is. It's absurd. 03444991000. Let's go over to my next guest, Harry Cole, editor-at-large at The Sun. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Kev, how we doing? Good little rant there.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. It's so annoying watching this guy. Well, before we get on to a little bit of Starmer and Burnham, Harry, thanks for joining us, by the way. I wanted to get your take as an American expert, of course, on Donald Trump, the President of the United States, his initial rather withering verdict on Andy Burnham. Let's have a look.
He was extremely liberal, extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea.
Yeah, and he also said he hadn't heard of him, had he, Harry? He said something like, I think he's like a mayor of a town or something. I mean, that is a problem, the lack of recognition that is going to surround Andy Burnham, even in Great Britain. But around the world, he's Mr. Nobody, isn't he?
Well, exactly. We don't really know what he stands for. Well, we don't really know what he stands for at home, but we certainly don't know what his big thoughts are on geopolitics and the great matters of the world. And I expect Britain's support for Ukraine to continue, but where does he stand on Donald Trump, Iran? He's got a whole litany of tweets that Donald Trump hasn't even found out about yet, where he says any politician that broke bread with Donald Trump back in 2020, he was saying should be ashamed of themselves. It's disgraceful that we're engaging with him. So all of that's all got to come out yet. But aside from calling Manchester a town, which I suspect will upset the good people of Manchester, he's not exactly wrong, is he? The guy is super liberal, and he is markedly seen as a shift to the left from Keir Starmer. What I can't quite work out, what my colleagues back in DC, where I'm heading back to shortly, have been trying to work out in the last couple of days is this intelligence that Donald Trump's picking up from the US intelligence services? Because obviously on Sunday night he put a post out on his Truth Social saying, Keir Starmer's resigning in the morning. And at this point, officially Number 10 was still saying that he fights on, he fights to win, even though there's been some speculation around it. Is this just stuff he's reading on the internet, or is he being briefed by the US? Look, the special relationship will continue. I mean, Andy Burnham's barely got his feet under the desk in Parliament. So the idea that he should be reaching out just yet through unofficial channels to our allies, is a little bit presumptive. But it does show the problem he's going to have to overcome. That no one's ever heard of this guy. He's literally, as we've discussed already, discussed over the last few days, he's swept in a bit of a coup, and he's got a lot of bridge building to do. Not least in British politics, but around the world.
Well, Donald Trump making it clear that what he'd like to see, what all of us in Britain would like to see, were it not for Ed Miliband, that he's saying, well, will Andy Burnham start drilling in the North Sea again? Let's hope that he will. But what's your take on that? Also, I want to get your take on what you think, because we've got some shocking statistics about the migrant crisis today. By the way, something like 2,000 migrants have now come across the channel in the last 10 days or so. So that's back on. There are 60,000 migrants we know about here that shouldn't be here. They've outstayed their visas. There are 50,000 migrants, including 1,200 criminals, that have gone completely missing. What do you think Andy Burnham will do about the North Sea? What do you think he'll do about the migrant crisis?
Well, I'm sure you didn't miss an excellent article on page 10 of this morning's Sun newspaper, Kev.
That's why I've got you on, mate.
Let's do this.
The same old...
Let's go. Drill, Andy, drill. Come on, let's go. I mean, he is incredibly boxed in. What can he do? He can't. He's locked in with a Labour Party that won't cut benefits. The NHS remains a massive sacred cow for them. Plough more money in regardless of outcomes. He's borrowed. The nation's maxed out its credit card. Borrowing is at a hilt. Taxes are a hilt. There are very little options to him. So one big obvious one is let's just roll back net zero. Drill, expand oil licenses for sure. You've got cover from the Sun newspaper for sure, but you've also got cover from your union buddies. And Gary Smith in the GMB was out there in recent days saying let's drill. You've got Sharon Graham from the Unite the Union saying drill, baby, drill, essentially. You could look at the by-election result in Aberdeen South. It's pretty clear that the public of Aberdeen and Scotland are up for it. The SNP, the Tories, Reform, every single person except Ed Miliband is saying, even Rachel Reeves is out there this morning saying, let's drill some more. I think that's going to happen, but why stop there? If we actually want to instantly pull some levers to get energy costs down, which will trigger more inward investment into the United Kingdom, then let's get rid of some of these levies immediately on energy bills. Let's relax planning regulations quickly to get more nuclear power stations built, not in the next decade, in the next 18 months, the next 2 years. There are things that they can still do, even though it's looking pretty bleak for Andy Burnham, and net zero is obviously one of them. And you know what? It might just help him introduce himself to Donald Trump as a good thing, because I think the one thing that might patch up relations between the United Kingdom and America, which has been very stressed by Keir Starmer, is drill, baby, drill.
Also, Donald Trump is very keen on Britain, or the notion of Britain following his hardline migration policies. He's cured the southern border migrant crisis by something like 98%. The numbers coming across the border, he's virtually stopped it. So it can be done. But what do you think Burnham is going to do about the migrant crisis? Because right now, due to these new statistics, due to the fact 2,000 have come across in the last 10 days, it's on fire. It is just as bad as it has ever been. What will he do?
Well, I think there's really interesting timing of those new statistics have all started to leak out of the Home Office and drift out of the Home Office, appearing today. It's pretty clear that they're going to stick to their guns on these immigration reforms. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has taken a pretty hard line on this stuff, a hard line for the Labour Party. A lot of the Labour Party don't like it. I suspect deep down Andy Burnham doesn't like it. He's a bit John Lennon when it all comes to this. He's, he's been preaching about borders and countries and the like deep down. But you know what? He stood in Makerfield, and he has to listen to his constituents in Makerfield, who overwhelmingly overwhelmingly voted Leave in the local elections, overwhelmingly voted for Brexit. So, you know, he's got to be, you know, he's got to be following the public on this one, and no further, you know, no greater sign of what public opinion is like on immigration will he find in his own constituency, the only people in the country who've actually voted him. So I suspect Shabana Mahmood, if she's not the Chancellor, I don't think she will be, I suspect she stays at the Home Office, and they're actually doing quite a sophisticated pitch rolling exercise at the moment of getting these shocking statistics out there, just to remind, not necessarily the public know, but to remind Labour MPs of just how bad the current status quo is, and as a case for sticking to those reforms, passing them through, new immigration legislation coming, couldn't be more needed. And I think if Andy Burnham tried to go the other way, I think he'd be going the same way in the polls pretty quickly as one Keir Starmer.
Last question to you, Harry. Again, thank you for joining us. You're down at that ARC conference
Always.
at Olympia.
I've been here for days.
I know you have. Well, you were on yesterday, weren't you, from the same place? Did you feel sorry for Starmer and his cabinet yesterday as Kemi Badenoch absolutely ripped them apart in PMQs in a sensational Prime Minister's question session, possibly the most explosive I've ever seen? There was apparently a big row off camera afterwards between Badenoch and Bridget Phillipson, the spiteful class warrior Education Secretary, and Liz Kendall, the Science Secretary. Did you feel sorry for them?
Look, at the end of the day, look, it's politics. Politics. It does get very personal. It is very personal. Look, no, I wish Keir Starmer well. He had a crack at it, and he screwed it all up. Off he goes to join the Prime Minister's club. See you at the Cenotaph every year. You know, that's that. Look, at the end of the day, it's you got to. What can you do? He is the architect of his own misfortune. He fundamentally was a dishonest. I wrote about this on Monday as well. He's fundamentally a dishonest Prime Minister in the fact that he said one thing, his actions did not meet his words. He promised the world and he didn't deliver. And in fact, he actually delivered in the opposite direction of what he said he was going to do. So that's that aside. I'm no woke identity politics champion on this, but you have to say the backlash to Kemi's comments are absurd. If she was a bloke and she'd made those comments about another bloke, no one would be talking about this. But because she's a woman, it's suddenly it's so outrageous, it's so cold and heartless. Get a grip, come on. Yeah. If the idea that Keir Starmer, he's not dead. The idea that we have to read a eulogy to him because his own party have, stabbed him in the back. And then the very ones that stabbed him in the back are all now lining up to say it's outrageous that someone was a little bit mean to him. Yeah. Give me a break, come on.
But Harry, you don't realise, poor Bridget Phillipson grew up in poverty. She grew up on a council estate, so therefore she can do no wrong. When he said that, I just...
Congratulations to her, a great backstory, but now we judge you on your actions, not your story. That's meritocracy.
Yeah, thank you very much for your backstory. You grew up on a council estate, Bridget, couldn't care less. What I'd like you to do is your job properly, and you don't. Harry, fantastic to have you on the show. Enjoy the conference. See you very soon again. Harry Cole, the brilliant editor-at-large for The Sun newspaper. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about town hall tyrants. Do you believe this? Can you believe this? Bedford Council has been did hand out parking tickets to all the cars parked at the station near where that fatal tragic train crash happened last Friday. Now, these cars are either belonging to people who just couldn't get into the area at all because it was all closed off, obviously, because of the carnage and all the people injured, waiting for ambulances, air ambulances, or they belong to people who were injured on the train, and then, of course, people couldn't get back to the station because all the railway lines were closed down, and they went round handing out parking tickets to everybody. Some of them, some of those cars belong to people who were badly injured on that train. This is unbelievable. Town hall tyrants. They've now apologised, but why did they do that in the first place? We'll talk about these local council dictators when we come back. Stay tuned.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Don't forget Kev's campaign to stop Keir lying. He's going round saying he's been a tremendously successful Prime Minister. The country's a lot better 2 years on from when he took over. It's not. It's a load worse. Let's not let this guy lie to us like this. Don't let him depart Downing Street lying through his teeth, pretending to us that he's done a great job. He's been fired by his own party because he's pathetic, incompetent and useless. So join Kev's campaign to stop Keir lying. Get onto social media, get onto Twitter, get onto X as it's now called, get onto Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Don't let him get away with this, folks. I don't know about you, but it's really riled me up. How dare he? How dare he lie to us like this? He's lied for the past 2 years. Now he's lying that he's done a good job. Let me know what you think about this liar. 03444991000. Now, let's go over to my next guest. He is head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Hello, Andrew. You're going to join my campaign to stop Keir lying, aren't you?
Oh, I think I will, Kevin. Don't forget breakfast clubs, though. I mean, the rollout of breakfast clubs has been the major achievement, according to the government.
Free breakfast clubs. Free
breakfast club.
Oh, except for taxpayers who are going to pay for them.
Well, yes, it's free at the point of delivery, but it all has to be paid for.
It's free to the kids. It's free to the kids, not their parents. Absolutely ridiculous. Right, let's talk about town hall tyrants. Did you know, this is unbelievable. Bedford Council have apologised after... So there was a station near where that fatal train crash was last Friday, and it's full of cars, commuters who go off to work, and you know the syndrome. They leave their cars in the station car park, they come back and drive back home. So of course lots of people just literally couldn't get back to that station because it was cordoned off amid the carnage and people being taken to hospital and all that. Other of those cars belonged to people who were on the train, people who were injured. And there's these local council parking guys going around giving them tickets. Parking tickets. They've now apologised. Sorry, we shouldn't have done that. What I want to try to examine here is the mentality of doing that in the first place.
That is the unbelievable part of it all, isn't it? I mean, they knew exactly what had happened. They knew the reason why people had parked their cars there and why they hadn't collected their cars. So anyone with an ounce of common sense would realise what was going on and would just leave it for a day or two and let things sort itself out. But we hear this from cabinet ministers as well as town hall busybodies. Lessons will be learned, but lessons are never learned, are they? You can bet your life that when something similar happens again, that the council busybodies will be out there putting parking tickets on or doing something similar and just not using any common sense at all.
Yeah, imagine that. You're on that train, you get injured, hopefully not too badly, but they've all taken to hospital. You finally limp back to your car, and it's got a ticket on it. parking tickets. So this is Bedford Borough Council. A spokesman there said, we are aware of this matter and apologise for any incorrect tickets issued. As I say, yeah, I mean, you're right to say sorry, but you should have a look at yourself in the mirror for issuing those tickets in the first place.
They should, because I mean, the last time I parked in a station car park, I got a ticket. Even though I'd already paid for the parking. And so I had to put an appeal in, which was actually rather awkward, a really bureaucratic process to Trans-Pennine Express. And eventually he was just dismissed. But there's a lot of hassle involved when you get a parking ticket, when you shouldn't get one.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Well, let's move on to another example of town hall tyranny, and that is that councils around the country, particularly in Camden Council, which is my local council in North London, have been going round to homeowners who've installed air conditioning units and ordering them to rip them out because they do not comply with net zero rules. And when people have said, particularly right now, yeah, wait a minute, it's 35 degrees. They go, well, you still have to take that air conditioning unit out, and may we suggest that instead of your air conditioning unit, you either install ceiling fans or, and this is the doozy, this is why we have councils, so they can give you good advice, or you open your windows. Get the hell out of our lives. If I want to put an air conditioning unit into my house, I'm going to do it. By the way, I live in Camden Council, so I give you fair warning, Camden Council. I am going to put an air conditioning unit into my house because I'm not going through this again.
Well, after reading the story of the Telegraph, Kev, I did educate myself because I hadn't realised that the councils had these sort of powers, and it's in conservation areas. Yeah. And they're saying that you must exhaust all forms of natural ventilation. But who decides on whether you've exhausted all forms of natural ventilation or not? But your local council officer who comes around and does it. But again, do they not have anything better to do, Kev?
Yeah.
To go around people's homes and saying, well, I know it's hot, but you're just going to have to leave the doors and the windows open.
And how about they stick their net zero rules and regulations, tyrannical, dictatorial diktats where the sun don't shine, where the very hot sun don't shine. You know, get out of our lives. I hate this. It's nanny statism, sticking their business into our private lives. Go away, leave us alone.
Well, it's why we need to repeal net zero legislation. Start doing that and we'll get rid of these sort of things happening, won't we?
We certainly will. Andrew, always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. That's Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism. When we come back, we're going to talk to Ben Habib, former leader of the Advanced UK Party, about some of the big stories of the day. One of them is that Denmark looks set to ban Islamic calls to prayer. That's a left-wing government. A left-wing immigration minister said, we do not want this country sounding like a suburb of Islamabad. So they're taking a stance on this. That's a left-wing government. About time we did the same. About time we banned mass open-air praying by Muslims. Let me know. 03444991000. See you in a minute. welcome back. Ben Habib is in the studio. Oh, wait a minute, he isn't. It's Samara Gill. That's another example of the supreme professionalism you come to expect of Drive Time here. Ben Habib is on at 6. So I've got Samara Gill in the studio. Just as good, if not a lot better. Now...
I'm the leader of No Advance UK.
Right, yeah. She's the leader of the Reverse UK Party.
At least it starts with an R.
Right, you're joining my campaign, Kev's campaign, to stop Keir lying about his track record as Prime Minister.
I can get behind that. Yeah, that
actually, you've got about 22 million followers on TikTok, haven't you? So get on TikTok, everybody. Seriously, do not let this man get away with this. He is deluding himself. He's trying to leave office, persuading us that he's been an unmitigated success. He's been an unmitigated disaster. He said, well, look, let's play Starmer talking earlier in a serious example of his growing delusion about his performance as Prime Minister. Here he goes.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, you know, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the Channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. You see, you don't get this kind of commentary on the BBC, do you? Before I get Samara's take on that absurd statement from that absurd little Prime Minister of ours, here's a voice note from Tony.
Keir Starmer's marking his homework, is he, on his achievements about the Channel migrants. There's an old saying, isn't there, is self-praise is no recommendation. And it's blatant for all to see the diabolical he and his government have done in curtailing the migrants coming across the Channel. The man's a charlatan. He's been a charlatan since the day he walked into number 10, and he's going to be a charlatan on the way out as well.
Yeah, he's leaving with the bad grace that he showed throughout his tetchy 2-year tenure, didn't he? That's good, isn't it? Tetchy 2-year tenure. There you go, a bit of alliteration.
Classic Kev,
a little bit of alliteration for you there. But seriously, you know, the litmus test for a Prime Minister is, does he leave the country in a better state than when he took over? I mean, it's almost as if he's setting himself up, because what we all know, demonstrably, this country is miles worse than when he took over.
Absolutely. And he has, even just statistically, been one of the worst, if not the worst and most unliked PM. And it's so interesting, you know, even Rishi Sunak on his departure speech said, I'm sorry. A lot of the speeches have encapsulated an I'm sorry. And the fact that he still didn't apologise to the British public for what he has done is egregious. You know, you had the Defence Secretary resigning, obviously, last week. When he talks about stopping the boats, he's allowed over 70,000 across the Channel just in the past 19 months. And that's not to say he hasn't even spoken about one woman died crossing the Channel just last week. And that is because of the failure of government policy. This is sort of the thing that he's supported. He doesn't have a legacy. And his team has kept saying, oh, we need another couple of months to solidify Keir's legacy. Sorry,
his legacy is he banned something, banned social media for the under-16s, which won't work. They'll all get onto social media anyway. Here he is again, boasting.
I am stepping down after 2 years, leaving the country in a better position than when I found it. I will do that with good grace, and I will do that making sure that there is an orderly transition, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to have foremost in my mind the sense of service and duty that has driven me as Prime Minister. I will continue to faithfully serve my country to make sure that any disruption is absolutely minimised, and that's why I'm taking steps now to ensure that that can be done in a sensible way.
Stop lying. Shut up, you liar. I mean, orderly succession. He is undermining Andy Burnham like there's no tomorrow. Andy said, could you give me till September? No, I'm going now. You don't want me. If you don't want me, I'm going now. So poor old Andy Burnham has got to be in situ in about 3 weeks' time, utterly unprepared. If Keir Starmer was statesmanlike and actually wanted Andy Burnham to succeed, he would have given him the 3 months, but no, he's out of there. Meanwhile, he is making sure that poor old Andy Burnham gets hamstrung by his ludicrous defence investment plan, which will starve our military of money. This guy, Starmer, is doing everything he can to screw Burnham up.
Because it's all about him, isn't it? And that's the problem, and that's why I was scoffing behind the scenes with you as he said service.
Self-service.
It's always self-service. That's why he clung on to power so long, through the Mandelson drama, through, you know, even down to Glasses Gate with Lord Ali at the very beginning of his leadership. It's all been about him. And you know what the really telling thing was? When he made his departure speech, the only time that he started crying or showing any emotion was when he was talking about himself.
Yeah.
It was my wife and my children. And, you know, of course, it's not nice to see anyone cry.
His wife, Queen Vic, Victoria Sponger.
Literally. But it was so revealing. He stayed completely straight when he was talking about how great the economy was under him, how he stopped the boats, how he's done this and that. But when it came to him, he started to crack and cry and feel sorry for himself.
Yeah, and I think he sort of theatrically put that on to try to garner some sympathy, which he's not going to get, certainly not in this studio. Let's move on. What do you make of... this is a fascinating story. Denmark, you know what those Scandinavians are like. They've got a pretty left-wing government.
They do.
Very left-wing, so it's a bit like ours, really. Anyway, the immigration minister of Denmark has stood up and he says, we're going to ban Islamic calls to prayer. You know, the big calls to prayer that you hear when you go to Muslim countries. Apparently in Denmark they resound over all the towns and the cities. It's going to ban it because he talks about creeping Islamification, which has to be stopped. And he said, if we keep allowing the Muslim call to prayer, our nation will sound like a suburb of Islamabad. In other words, this is a really left-wing immigration minister taking a hardline stance against the Islamic call to prayer, which I think, to be fair, in Britain is not allowed. They're not allowed to wail from the top of those minarets. They're not allowed to do that like they do around the world in Islamic countries. But we do allow mass, what I would suggest, or what has been suggested, provocative mass open-air Muslim praying. So our equivalent of banning the Islamic call to prayer would be, I suggest, banning mass open-air Muslim praying. Should we do that?
Should we do that? Yes, I think we should do that. I mean, the thing is, I was actually talking to someone at that art conference, Amjad Taha, who's actually from an Islamic country, and he's shocked about the concessions that we make over in the West for the Muslim community, only because I think it's kind of on everyone that we have a very strict set of guidelines and rules in our own country as to how we want to maintain a sense of order and also a sense of social cohesion. So what I mean is, it's better when the rules are just there for people to follow and it's not dubious. We haven't got that sort of be kind reverence that has really walked us down a very dark path as a country of Britain. I think it probably is a good thing that Britain it sort of lays down the law on this, but I agree, it shouldn't just be an Islamic thing, it should include everyone.
Yeah, but it's also, this is about Islamification. So this guy's called Morten Bodskov. He's a senior social democrat, left-wing. He is their immigration minister. And he said the call to prayer should not be heard over Danish rooftops. It has no place in Denmark, and you shouldn't be in any doubt whether you've ended up in a suburb of Islamabad when you walk around Denmark. So pretty tough talking there. Now, our equivalent of doing this would, I think, be to ban them. So Heaton Park in Birmingham a couple of months ago, 30,000 Muslims gathered to pray in the open air. You know, this is Nick Timothy, the Tory MP, says this is provocative. They're trying to tell you that we are taking over your country. We can do what we like. So I do think states, for their own self-respect, have to take a stand about this. You know, freedom of religion by all means, but not that kind of provocative mass praying, which is basically saying, hey ho, we can do what you like and we're taking over your country.
Yeah, I think it's putting both parties in a very tricky position here, because I just really think that when you allow these sort of things to happen, there's even a Muslim town in Texas, I believe, in America, whereby they kind of their plan, or at least they wanted to segregate all Muslims into one town and have them have the call to prayer and things like that. I believe that's the plan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they've proposed, they've set forward the planning and the architectural drawings for this Muslim haven. I mean, I'm not even, you know, I'm not necessarily against that.
No, neither.
You know,
the Amish
I don't think it's good for integration. But you know, you have freedom of choice. You know, people want to do this, fine. But when they pray en masse in Trafalgar Square or Heaton Park, I think that is provocative. I think that's cocking a snoop at the rest of us.
I didn't have a problem. I didn't think it was that provocative. I thought the only
30,000.
I thought it was okay. I just thought that the exclusion of women and others, I mean, it's just annoying because they were trying to paint it as this all-inclusive prayer session, and that's what kind of Sadiq Khan was trying to portray it as and illustrate it as, and I don't think it was that inclusive at all. So I'm just like, what I'm more trying to say is, Sadiq Khan, stand your ground. Just say it, tell it for what it is if you're going to stand by it. But what I would just say is that these type of things, they create much more division than they do inclusion, and the thing that they're trying to do actually gets lost in the way, and it actually creates a lot of tension between communities. That would be my problem with that.
Well, I'm here to be persuaded. What do you think, folks? Denmark is going to ban the call to prayer. In fairness, I don't think it's allowed in this country already because it's kind of noisy and it tends to happen at like 4 in the morning. So it's not allowed in this country. But do you think we should take a stand about mass open-air Muslim praying? 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about Hugh Edwards, the disgraced former BBC main anchor, their news star at the state broadcaster, of course, fell from grace. So he's now a convicted child sex abuser, convicted paedophile. He does not seem to have embraced his fall from grace. He keeps talking about making a documentary to tell his side of the story. No, mate, you have pictures of children, sexually compromised children, in your possession. There is no side of your story I want to hear. Nobody wants to hear it. So he's talking about making that documentary. He's now, amazingly, launched his publishing platform, self-publishing platform on Substack. So he's going to write his thoughts on that platform, social media platform Substack. I mean, he can do it, I suppose, but, you know, it's... You know, do we want the thoughts of a convicted paedophile on Substack? Should Substack be thinking about that? I don't like the idea of cancelling people, but I do think we, you know, I'm not sure we want...
I think he deserves to be cancelled, though, after what we've found.
Yeah, okay, what do you think about it?
Well, we've found, obviously, the Category A stuff that was found in his possession wasn't... I think it was also included video, which is pretty sickening to think about. It was really serious child pornography. And that just makes me think, first of all, that he should have been in jail. Now, I know that he got that suspended sentence, but at least jail time probably would have prevented him from starting a Substack. We also know that he, I believe, still gets his pension from the BBC.
Oh, yeah, he gets his pension.
So why does he need more money?
Well, this is how he launched his account yesterday. Put a new photograph of himself up there. He said he's going to write a once-a-week report on current affairs and cultural analysis, as well as mental health, overcoming trauma, and attempting to rebuild some kind of worthwhile life. He's a big fan of talking about his own mental health problems, isn't he? Hey, mate, you're a paedophile. Nobody cares about your mental health problems. He wrote on this Substack thing after 4 decades. And years in broadcast journalism with a focus on Welsh, British and French politics, I am still a keen observer of events. There will be some who do not wish to read my work, and I respect that choice, but for those who might be interested, I would like to start tentatively by offering some commentary and analysis based on my long experience of sitting there in a BBC studio reading the auto cue. I love these auto cue readers who say, I'm a top journalist. No, you're sitting in a studio reading. That's what they do. I did that for 2 years, I remember.
But that was the main thing that actually cropped up in my head when I read this story, because I just thought, what does he have to offer? We don't even know his politics. I mean, I can assume he's probably quite left-wing, considering we worked at the Beeb for so long, but I'm not sure. I mean, no one really wants to know his opinion on anything. And I mean, it is interesting. You see people like Greg Wallace cropping up and trying to give life coaching classes on TikTok and sell his sort of wares. It does pose an issue. Once you get cancelled and have cancellation, what can you do? I guess he'll have to self-publish, but the problem is,
well, on Substack, which is what you do on Substack, I guess I agree that Substack should be allowed to take his work and he should be allowed to put it out there if people want to read it. Trouble is, he might make quite a lot of money here because... I think it's possible because out of curiosity, novelty value, a lot of people will go on to say, what's he on about then? That bloke, that pedo, who used to be famous sort of thing. And they'll go on there. He might make quite a lot of money. Again, I suppose I don't have any objection to that, but I think psychologically what we're seeing here is similar to what we're seeing from Keir Starmer. Two men who are leaving the world stage, if you like, for very different reasons, don't get me wrong, but both of whom had tremendous status and both of whom are losing it, who have lost it to a huge extent. They've lost their status. And it's devastating to them. Keir Starmer's just lying to us, saying I wasn't a disaster, I was a triumph. And this guy is sort of deluding himself that anybody cares much what he thinks these days, and somehow or other expecting us to sort of skip over the fact he's a convicted child sex abuser.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make. I think that there is a tone-deaf nature to the way that both of these men operate, but especially Hugh Edwards, who obviously has conviction and he's serving his suspended sentence at the moment. I think that he needs to really read the public mood here. What people want is for him to go away, take a walk in the park that he's allowed to do, and just leave and just get out of the public view. But look, if he wants to tell us his sob story about how difficult and tough it is and how much of a victim he is for his crimes, then sure, go for it. But I mean, text in if you're actually going to read that Substack. Yeah. Let me know, because I don't think I'll be clicking on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, are you going to read Hugh Edwards' Substack? 03444991000. Just before you go, we're going to do this story next, actually, but I want to get your views on it. Yesterday, we did this extraordinary story. You know, this new MP, SNP, Scottish National Party MP, Westminster MP, Lara Bird. She's been successfully voted in a by-election by the good people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry up in Scotland. Now, she notoriously, when she was sworn in, you have to, if you're an MP, you have to swear allegiance to the King. So she crossed her fingers and said, actually, my only allegiance is to the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry.
It is so, like, secondary school passe.
Yeah, pathetic, isn't it? Grow up, Lara. In fact, that's not her name. Her name is Pyla, P-Y-L-A. Her real name is Pyla Lara Bird Leakey.
Bucket. Anyway.
Yeah, well, look, listen to this, though. So Lara Bird, she does this, right, there she is. We're going to do this story in a second, but I just want to quickly get your view on it. Now, she said, my first loyalty is to the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. I'm looking to represent, Scottish accent.
Yeah.
We found her talking, some footage of her talking. She's a mad pro-Palestine person, crazy left-winger. She's going like this. It's terrible the way that this country treats the people of Gaza. The Palestinians must be allowed to be free. Free Palestine. That's her real accent. Now, so I mean, laughable, hilarious, but she fought this campaign using that Scottish accent.
That's pretty serious.
Isn't that deliberately deceiving the people of that great constituency?
It reminds me of Kamala Harris and what she did in the lead up to the Democratic election in 2024, where she basically really turned up one side of her heritage, which is half Jamaican. But by the way, as someone who's half Indian myself, like Kamala Harris, for the actual vice presidential race, she really went close to that side. And I don't blame her, you know. Turn up, try and get the votes where you need to get them. I have no issue with that. But faking an accent fully, like I saw the videos side to side. Yeah. It's outrageous.
Yeah. I think that I just think that arguably she's sort of broken electoral rules. You can't turn up and pretend to be someone you're not. Well, we're going to examine that next. In the meantime, fantastic, Samara. Thank you very much.
I don't have an Australian accent. I'm a fake Australian.
Yeah. What are you really talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually American.
She actually talks like this. Oh, have I got to go on? Hi, I'm Samara Gill from Australia. No, you're not. You're from Bolton.
Done wonders for my career, Kev.
Yeah, that's Samara Gill, our Bolton correspondent there. Next up, we're going to talk about Lara Bird, or should I say, pilot Lara Bird-Leakey. That next. Stay tuned.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listen, we're going to talk about Lara Bird, and we were having some technical difficulties, but I think I got Samara Gill back into the studio because we were having trouble getting hold of Paul Cox, but I think we've got Paul now, have we? Can we go over to Paul? Samara, get out of the studio. I never wanted you in here anyway.
I was just going to do my accent.
Just go onto the camera. It's all very together. It's like a well-oiled machine. That's because we're all well-oiled. Let's talk about Lara Bird. Let's go over to comedian Paul Cox. Hi, Paul. Glad we got you. Well, look, let's play the videos. I know you've been active on social media about this, and this is both hilarious a fantastic example of political hypocrisy. But it's also potentially quite serious, I think, because I think she may have misrepresented herself to the good people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. Well, first of all, let's have a look at Lara Bird, as she likes to call herself, not her real name, which is Pilar Lara Bird -Leakey. This is Lara Bird being sworn in the House of Commons a couple of days ago with her fingers crossed behind her back because she didn't really want to swear allegiance to the King because she's really left-wing and right on. Yeah, revolution now. OK, here's Lara Bird being sworn in.
I take this oath only so that I can serve the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry. My first allegiance is, and always will be, the sovereign people of Scotland. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to the law, so help me God.
Shaking her head like a sort of petulant adolescent. Yeah, King, yeah, down with the King. Pathetic, isn't it? Grow up, Lara, and stop pretending that's your name. It's Pilar Lara, P-Y-L-A. What kind of a name is that? Pilar Lara Bird -Leakey. Anyway, here she is in Pilar Lara Bird -Leakey mode not so long ago. Listen to the accent this time.
Make recognition of their state, a state that already exists, a state that has existed for longer than the state of Israel has, for many, many, many generations, for the UK government to completely undermine.
Yeah, so obviously pro-Palestine claptrap there, but, you know, a cut-glass English accent there. Now, the SNP yesterday said, well, she's half Scottish, half English. Well, that doesn't explain why she has two accents. Having two accents is bizarre, weird, but it's also deceptive. She's deceiving people about who she really is. She's a cut-glass English girl who actually, for a while, had a Queen Mother-sponsored scholarship to study the law at university. She dropped out of uni. But here's the deal. It occurred to me after we did this story yesterday, Paul, and it might have occurred to you. She's just done a campaign in the good constituency, as I say, of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry up in Scotland, where she was triumphant. Now, presumably she did that campaign, waged that campaign using her Scottish accent, which clearly isn't her real accent. So did she misrepresent herself to the people of Broughty Ferry, of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry? Was she deceiving them? That cannot be within electoral rules. So it's a bit like me turning up to campaign in that by-election and saying, yeah, well, you want to vote for me because I'm a nuclear scientist. You know, you can't tell lies like that, can you?
Well, do you know what's absolutely, it's completely and utterly deceiving. It's quite the grift, isn't it? However, it's not illegal. It's not illegal, and we've seen this.
Well, is it? But electorally, is it legal to misrepresent yourself? I say it is.
Well, I think so. I agree entirely with you, Kev. Of course. I mean, maybe there are some parliamentary or some political or UK government rulings and policies that I'm unaware of. In terms of just pretending to have a different accent every day, depending on who your audience is, there's nothing illegal in that. However, there should be some rules or standard when it comes to members of the British Parliament. This person has, I believe, scammed the people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry into believing that she's something that she's not.
That's my opinion as well. Yeah,
she's standing on the basis of SNP, which is a one policy party, as we know, and that's, you know, Scottish independence. Also,
no, they've got another policy. It's buying as many motorhomes, mobile homes, and Jaguars as you can, and get into your homes as many coffee machines as humanly possible. That's their other policy.
That is, on that other policy, they've actually succeeded where they have not done on independence. And I start to question the SNP here, because my pet or peeve subject over the last sort of 5 years politically was the SNP until Nicola Sturgeon didn't become the First Minister anymore. But I suddenly realised when I started sharing this stuff yesterday that a lot of those people that hated me and followed me as a result of my in the fact I do not like the
As a result of
SNP,
your personality.
as a result, yeah, some people just follow
All
me
these
'cause they
people who
don't like
hated
me,
you as a
basically.
result of your personality, yeah.
And
That happens
they
to
all
me. This
came
happens to me,
flooding back.
Paul. Happens to the best of us.
Exactly. I'm in good company. But they all come flooding back, and I forgot how zealoted the SNP, the nationalist Scottish voter was. But I can't believe they are so zealoted that they want to be represented by a posh English woman. I just cannot believe it. But that's what they've got.
Yeah, who's obviously posed as a Scottish person. And clearly the SNP say, well, she's half Scottish, half English. But
that's not a thing, is it? You don't...
yeah, but you don't have two accents because of that. But also, we contacted the Electoral Standards Commission and asked them what the rules are here. There are no guidelines. But I would suggest that electorally, if you misrepresent yourself, that cannot be within the rules. As I say, if I put myself up for election to be an MP and I ran a campaign on the basis that I'm a nuclear scientist, surely that has to be against the rules. Just to make sure you are aware, I'm not a nuclear scientist. But, so did she misrepresent herself? Was that really within the rules? We're going to try and find out. In the meantime, Paul, got to move on, but good to have you on the show. As always, come on again very soon. That's Paul Cox, comedian, who has strong views about this. What do you think? Let me know. Should someone who wants to be your MP... If an MP knocked on your door and said, "Oh, I'd like to have your vote, please. Could you back me up? I'm going down to Westminster to represent you." And it turns out that she's actually a cut-glass English accent speaker. I mean, how would you feel about that? It's sort of fraudulent, isn't it? She's deceiving people. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Next up, I'm going to talk to former Government Minister Norman Baker, author of several books scrutinising the royal family. He is an expert on their finances, their shady finances. We're going to talk to Norman about the fact that the King Charles, tonight at 10 p.m. will become the first ever monarch, the first ever royal to publish his tax return. So we're going to get a look into his finances. This is all about accountability and increasing calls for that royal family to be a little bit more transparent about their money, because we've got a lot of questions to ask them. We'll ask questions of Norman Baker next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I just said, the King will become the first ever member of the royal family, first ever monarch to publish his tax returns tonight at 10 p.m. He's doing that especially for the BBC News. Didn't think about me, did he? But let's talk to an expert on royal finances and the shady nature, the secretive way our royal family treat us when it comes to their money. He is Norman Baker, former Government Minister, who's written several books scrutinising royal finances. Welcome to the show, Norman. So the King's going to do this tonight. That is because I say This is the classic survival mechanism of the royal family kicking in. He knows. The royal family know we've had enough of this. We're finding out, you know, you've got all these palaces you're renting out to your own for £5 a year and all this kind of thing. We're being conned, and we want to know about your money. We want accountability. We want transparency. Are you conning us? What's going on here? The king realises this, is going to publish his tax returns to take the heat off the royals. Am I right?
Well, that's part of it, but they always sort of do not quite enough to catch up with public opinion. Rather than getting ahead of the game, they follow public opinion. Charles will tonight tell us what overall tax he's paid in 2024-25, I think it is, or 23-24, I think, and William likewise. But he's not breaking it down, as we would expect, between, for example, the money from the Duchy of Lancaster and his dividend investments and the money he's getting from his private properties. So we won't know that figure later on tonight. And in a way, it's not terribly new, because he did actually tell us when he was Prince of Wales how much he was paying in tax. That was stopped when he became king because William didn't want to carry on the tradition. And now William's being forced into an embarrassing U-turn, and we'll find out how much he's been paying as well.
So what we're going to get tonight then, just in time for the BBC News, is how much tax the king paid and how much tax William paid. Will we find out how much they earned?
No, we won't find out how.
So there's not much use then, is it?
No, it's not. It's not, because we won't know how much they're claiming in expenses. And if you look at what MPs have to do, quite rightly, and members of the House of Lords and local councillors, they have to account for all their expenses, as we very well know from MPs' expenses that for us, the farce we had about 25 to 15 years ago on that matter. We need to know what they're claiming. We do know when Charles was Prince of Wales, he claimed for stabling for Camilla's horses and for her dresses before they were even married to the Duchy of Cornwall. And he also tried to claim as polo ponies. So we have to know what he's actually claiming for. We won't be told that tonight. What we will be told tonight, I think, is that the level of sovereign grant going forward, which has been massively increased over the years. It was 31 million in 2011, and it was 137 million this year, which is a fourfold increase in 15 years. So that's going to come down, I understand it, because Buckingham Palace has finally been redecorated at vast cost. And the test will be, how far is it coming down? It should come down way, way down from that figure to a much smaller figure, enough to support Charles and Camilla, William and Kate and their children, and that's it. The rest of them should be either pensioned off or go back to work.
Now, far be it from me to stand up for Meghan. I'm no big fan of hers, but she gets a lot of flack. She catches a lot of flack because people say, you're trading on your royal connections. You're making money out of being a sort of semi-member of the royal family. You're just making profits out of being in the royal family. What about the Duchy of Cornwall? Doesn't the Prince of Wales, now William, basically make an absolute fortune trading on his royal connections, as did the king when he was the Prince of Wales as well? Isn't that the sort of same way of making money that we accuse Meghan of being so horrible about?
Well, I think there's a very controversial question about the status of the Duchy of Cornwall and Duchy of Lancaster. My view is that they should be rolled up into the Crown Estate, which is a public body, and the money should all go to the Treasury. At the moment, William's getting a pay packet, which is about 150 times what the Prime Minister gets for doing not very much at all, which cannot be right.
What's he bringing in just about, Norman?
Well, he's getting 22 million, I think, this year in terms of income from the Duchy of Cornwall. You have to look back at the fact that in Victorian times, there was legislation relating to these duchies, and they were regarded as government departments. Charles and William insist they are private estates. Well, no other private estate is regulated by legislation this way. No other private estate had to give an annual return to the Treasury, and no other private estate is exempt from corporation tax and capital gains tax.
I mean, these guys, the royal family, they deliver this impression of being, you know, sort of old school aristocrats, not really money is a little beneath us. We don't have to worry about that sort of thing. We all live in palaces and we're made for life. But actually, if you look into the details, they're all pretty obsessed on their money. Prince William, the Prince of Altruism, his first move when taking over the Duchy of Cornwall, which, as you say, already brings in 20 million quid, massive amounts of money, was to set up an investment committee to take money, invest it and make even more money. They are not above financial concerns. In fact, they're rather fixated on them, aren't they?
They are, and if you look at the Duchy of Cornwall, there was a nice spin from the palace the other day about William selling off a fifth of the duchy as if that was somehow a gift to the nation. No, he was going to use the money to build industrial estates and houses which could then be rented out to increase the income which comes into the duchy and therefore increases the amount of money which he gets. And as you rightly say, he's appointed an investment committee. He's appointed to the Duchy of Cornwall board investment bankers and property developers. That tells you where he's going. You know, the cost of the monarchy in this country is about £500 million a year, £500 million a year. And that's more than 10 times the next nearest monarchy in Europe, which is the Dutch monarchy, which comes in at 46 million.
Wow. And, I mean, these people, these royals, they use this kind of natural deference that we as a nation have towards them in order to avoid accountability, don't they?
They do, and they also rely on the press being careful in what they report. If the press behaves itself, in inverted commas, they will get nice photographs of the royal children to put on the front pages of the papers. They will also indulge in spin. I mentioned the Prince William issue a couple of weeks ago. Quite often when there's some embarrassing news to be put out, you'll find it happens on the royal tour when all the royal correspondents are somewhere else in the world. You know, that's what they do. And they do rely on deference. And I think the public's appetite for deference is wearing thin.
So what you're saying, Norman, I know you've got to go in a second, but this, I thought we were going to get this bombshell revelation tonight, how much the King earns, what he pays in tax. He's just going to say, this is what I paid in tax last year. Well, that's no good to anybody.
Well, it's better than nothing, but it's not terribly useful. That's what he will say. He'll give a figure for how much tax he's paid, as will William, but no other details.
It's very interesting. Well, look, let's have a look and see what happens tonight. In the meantime, thanks for coming on, Norman, and come on again very soon about this very issue, which I find fascinating. We're going to do Sun Sport in just a minute, find out Scotland. Boy, oh boy, did they get a hammering last night. I watched that game. I likened it to, if you can imagine, so they played Brazil. They got hammered, absolutely thrashed. They were the architects of their own downfall, that's for damn sure. They kept giving the ball away. But if you can imagine, like a Sunday, I'm going to get in trouble with all our Scottish fans here, but let's be real. I love the Scottish fans. The Scottish fans, they are the best off the field in the world. Fantastic, the Tartan Army. Brilliant, amazing. Let's face it, Scotland aren't very good on the field of play, are they? Last night, I mean, it was, if you can imagine, a Sunday morning park team playing Arsenal. It was a bit like that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but in the meantime, let's take a quick call. Let's talk to Michael in Hertfordshire. Hi, Michael.
Good afternoon. Starmer and Reeves, I think they must be on drugs.
This is a humorous comment, of course, but, I mean, you would imagine so. I mean, both of them. And what are they doing? I mean, who are they kidding? Both of them, but particularly Starmer. The litmus test for a Prime Minister is he's left the country in a better state than when he took over. No, Keir. The country is demonstrably, palpably worse than when you took over. It's Rachel Reeves' fault.
It could be the Muppet Show. They've got the biggest debt ever by any government in England. Businesses are going bankrupt every 5 minutes. Reeves' interview, and what does she say? I've done this, I've done that, and I believe in North Sea oil and gas. So why didn't she tell Miliband, or Silly Band as I call him? It is just ridiculous and embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing, isn't it? I mean, you want to sort of take Keir Starmer aside and say, don't do this to yourself. When he stands there, I've done such a good job, brilliant, I've been amazing. You know, it's just, it just becomes an open target for everyone to go, no, you haven't, you've been a disaster. But I think it's to do, Michael, with his personality, his arrogant, conceited personality, that he cannot take it that he's failed. He has 100% failed, and of course he has been aided and abetted in that endeavour by the disastrous Chancellor, who also is going around telling us what a great job they've done. I don't want to hear it, do you?
Tell me one minister that's done anything that's been good. The waiting lists are coming down for the NHS. Of course they're coming down. People are dying while they're waiting. That's why they're coming down.
There are other reasons for that. There are other waiting.
I know.
No, but you're right. Waiting lists at the NHS aren't really coming down. They are doctoring them. What they do is people got an appointment next week. They've been waiting for 6 months. They'll get a letter saying, "Oh, well, your appointment's been postponed. It's not next week," and then they come off the waiting list. That's what they've been doing. They've been
Legal immigration is down. Of course it's down. People don't want to come here. They've got any common sense.
Well, it's not down, though. There's been about 2,000 migrants across the Channel illegally in the last 10 days. Legally, we just...
are the ones their countries don't want.
It's not down, Mike. It's a lie. It's a lie. They've been a disaster on the migrant crisis. Net zero is national suicide. And everything else that Starmer has done has been a disgrace. He's ruined the special relationship. It was no good abroad. It was even worse at home. So goodbye and good riddance to the worst Prime Minister in living memory. Michael, good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Michael in Hertfordshire there. Let's go to break, and when we come back, Sun Sport, we'll talk about the World Cup. Stay with
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to New York to talk to the Sun's Director of Sport, Sean Custis. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm good, but then again, I'm not Scottish. Last night, I did stay up to watch that game. And, you know, I love the Tartan Army, and I'm a big Scotland fan. I was really hoping they'd do well. But last night, I mean, my God, as I just said, if you've ever wondered what it would be like to watch a Sunday morning park team play Arsenal, last night you got it. I mean, they were just not good. And Steve Clarke, the manager, is not good at handling these situations, is he?
No, Scotland, first of all, Scotland were very poor. I agree with you. But then Scotland isn't a strong squad. Brazil is a strong squad. I don't think anybody in their right mind was expecting them to win. The best they could hope for was a draw by digging in or a narrow defeat, and they didn't manage either of them. And frankly, if they did sneak into the last 32, which is very, very unlikely, I don't feel many people think they deserve it. And Steve Clarke really liked the media a lot, and I wasn't surprised by the way he conducted his interview, which was frankly disgraceful.
It was disgraceful. I mean, there are responsibilities from managers. You know, media responsibilities. He's got form with this. You know, he's got to, I think he's got to grow up. You know, he's behaving like a dinosaur. You can't keep doing this. And frankly, you know, I think Scotland are a better team than the tactics he imposed on them. You know, obviously they're up against it against Brazil, but I couldn't work out what kind of a game Scotland were trying to play at all, apart from giving the ball away.
No, I think people would have forgiven them what happened last night if they'd had a bit of a go against Haiti and Morocco. And yes, they beat Haiti, but they weren't exactly running on the front foot at all times. And Morocco, they didn't really give it much of a go. And Brazil, they're just not in it at all. So it's been a very negative performance and a negativity from their manager, who, as you say, is a bit of a dinosaur. But he's from the old school where they didn't really like dealing with the media. They didn't embrace it. They didn't really know how to make it work. Whereas people nowadays, players and managers, know it's important. I'm not asking people to feel sorry for media or anything, but putting your message across and talking to the fans in the proper way is a responsibility of a manager, and he just doesn't do it.
And the Scottish fans, the Tartan Army, they've finally, you know, risen up. They've had enough of him, and they're really going for him, saying, you know, who the hell do you think you are? Your tactics have been terrible. You've got to own up. Because he was sort of blaming his players last night. I mean, he did say, look, these players got us to the World Cup. Let's not forget that. But he also said that they didn't step up to the plate. They didn't play as well as they could. I would suggest that they didn't play as well as they are capable of playing because of the tactics he imposed on them.
Yeah, possibly so, but certain other players haven't really stepped up to the mark. You would expect somebody like McTominay to have been taking the game by the scruff of the neck a little bit, and he hasn't done that. He is their standout player. He's been outstanding in Serie A, captain of Napoli, and it just hasn't happened for him here. So he'll be disappointed with that, as they say. A lot of Scottish fans we've seen over here, they paid a lot of money to come, have a bit of a party, and they feel quite deflated. It's hard to see that Clarke is the future of
he's just signed a 4-year contract with Scotland. Surely they're not going to have him see that out, are they? He's got to go.
Look, I don't spend enough time with the Scotland squad to know the inner workings of it, but he does not have a strong squad to work with either. I'm not
fair enough.
And he also made the point that they were in a group with the 5th and 6th ranked teams in the world, which is kind of a bit of an argument, but they didn't put up a fight.
They could have done a lot better. A quick word, though. A quick word to before we leave Scotland. Praise for the greatest fans on the face of the earth. The Tartan Army have been astonishing, marching through Boston with a pipe band in front, same in Miami. Amazing.
Yeah, they're good fun. They've enjoyed themselves, and they didn't want the party to stop, and that's what will upset them a bit because they wanted to keep on partying. We've seen quite a lot of them around here in New York, full of good spirits. And they, as I say, they wanted it to go on. And
I think that, you know, as you say, they were always up against it, but I think the Tartan Army have been let down. I'm not going to blame the players. I'm going to blame Steve Clarke, sulky little man that he is. Right, let's move on. Any England news ahead of our game on Saturday against Panama?
Well, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about rotating the side a bit. Tired, fatigue possibly with Declan Rice, not so much injury. He is, if needed, but do we need to play him is the question. And I'm sure we can get by Panama by giving him a bit of a rest. Also, do we rely on Harry Kane a little bit too much? Is there any way we could shake it up there and give him a rest? But of course, we have to get through and we need to win the group. So we haven't quite got the luxury we wanted of resting everybody, putting out a second team, if you like. And cruising through. It isn't like that anymore because of what happened against Ghana. But look, you can have one slip up like that. You can't have two, in my opinion. So hopefully we'll get back on track here in New York against Panama.
And the good news is the Ghanaian witch doctor has lifted the curse on Harry.
Yeah, that was helpful.
Front page of the Sun to say. So Harry should be back to top form against Panama. So good news. Now,
it was also good, Kevin, that the aliens didn't come down last night on the Brazil-Scotland game either, because aliens were going to cause havoc as well, but they didn't bother.
See, it's all happening. It's all happening over there, isn't it? Now, I thought Brazil, by the way, even though, let's face it, they were up against pretty easy opposition, they did look pretty awesome, didn't they?
Yeah, they're starting to hit form, linking well. And even their talisman Neymar came on, which pleased the Brazilian population, because when he's around, it just seems to lift everybody. I don't quite know why. He hadn't played for them since October 2023. But he's just got something about him, that star quality, which they all love, including their own players. We saw Matheus Cunha embracing him and so happy that he was being substituted for Neymar. And look, Vinicius, who has had a difficult season at times with Real Madrid, is loving this World Cup too. He's in ominous form. It's not a team you'd like to face.
No. So for me, you're more of an expert than me, of course, Sean, but for me, the teams to watch are obviously Brazil, Argentina, looking very strong. France and Spain, you can never rule out. On the outside of the favourites, I would suggest, well, obviously still England. They've got to raise their game, but still England. But also Mexico and Morocco, I think we should watch. But I note that tonight, at 9 o'clock our time here in Britain, Ecuador are playing Germany. We haven't heard much of Germany. Are they worth looking at? Are they contenders?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've heard plenty of Germany. They're all in town. They play
of course.
Tonight. So they've taken over Times Square before England take over Times Square tomorrow. And I think the Germans will be fine. They got off to a good start, had a bit of a hiccup, but they'll be fine, I'm sure. And then after that, later on, we've got Japan, Sweden, Tunisia, the Netherlands, Paraguay, Australia, and then, of course, Turkey, as they call them now.
Turkey, is that what we're going to call them? Is that
10 o'clock tonight. Everybody here is getting very excited about that. Yeah, Turkey drives me mad. It's like Cheshire. They've all changed their names.
Why do we have to do this? Just about get used to calling them Turkey. Now we're going to Turkey.
Apparently, they applied to the United Nations to change the pronunciation of their name or something. I was being given a historical lesson about what happened last year. We all have to call them Turkey.
Well, all due respect to our Turkish friends, but I think I'll stick with Turkey. So Ecuador, Germany, that's in New York, right? You're off to that game?
No, I've got the darts tonight, Kevin. The darts is in New York tonight. We've got Luke Littler, Luke Humphries, very good to social engagement. There'll be lots of England fans there, so we're popping along to that for a couple of hours to meet a lot of England fans and see the players. Looking forward to that, going for a couple of hours.
And just finally, Sean, all of the World Cup coverage on the Sun's website, programmes written up, Luke Walker, so on and so forth, yeah?
And our proper football daily show, Kevin, which is on YouTube every day with myself, Will Pugh, and Dean Scoggins, which I'm sure you're watching religiously.
Of course I am. Of course I am. I wouldn't miss it, mate. Actually, I will watch it now. Good to have you on the show, Sean. As always, enjoy the darts. Let's get the darts. It's at the World Cup. I want a job like that. Next up, we're going to talk to Ben Habib about all the big stories of the day. Please stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, we're going to be talking about one of these so-called influencer. She's a former shop assistant at John Lewis and went over to Dubai to kid herself. She's an influencer. Anyway, she got involved in an altercation with a British guy. She says that he was punching her, beating her up, and she defended herself with a kitchen knife and stabbed him to death, killed him. She's now under arrest in some Dubai hellhole prison. And campaigners are saying she should be treated as a domestic violence victim, whereas the Dubai people, the Dubai authorities, are treating her like, an accused murderer. It's an intriguing story. We'll be taking a look at her plight and that story next. But first, let's go over to my next guest, a former leader of the Advance UK Party, Ben Habib. Hello, Ben.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Now, in the annals of self-delusion, I'm going to play you a clip now, which I think is probably top of the charts. Here is self-delusion on an epic scale by our increasingly bizarre Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who seems to think that his past 2 years have been one long succession of unmitigated triumphs. And you keep saying, well, look, Keir, you keep telling us how the litmus test of a Prime Minister is, has he left the country in a better state than when he started? Well, we all know the answer to that question. He doesn't seem to think it. He thinks he's made this country much better. Here he is, deluding himself, but I suggest absolutely no one else.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So a huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
I think that noise in the background is from the canteen of the lunatic asylum that he's now been locked in. But seriously, Ben, what do you think about that?
Well, let's just look at his claims. The first claim he made was that migration is down. Actually, he cited net migration figures. And net migration figures are indeed down, but the reason they're down, in very significant part, is because he's driven lots of British citizens abroad. The net migration figure takes into account those who've come into this country, and they're still coming in large numbers, I think 500,000 or so last year. But there were 300,000 odd that left the country, the majority of which were British citizens. People who belong in this country, who would otherwise be contributing to the economy of this country, but have left the country because they can't make ends meet. This is one of the big fallacies in government statistics. They keep quoting net migration figures when they should look at total migration and net migration together and try and understand the composition of that figure. So he's misrepresenting the position on immigration. Immigration is still rampant. Our borders are still down. When he talked about illegal migration, yes, the number of people coming into this country has dropped compared to last year, but we still have thousands and thousands of people breaking into the United Kingdom without any attempt by us to stop them breaking into our country. That is not a problem getting better. That is a problem continuing to get worse.
Yeah, getting on for 10,000 in the last 10 days. 2,000 in the last 10 days.
It's like saying the rate of things going bad is reducing, but things are nevertheless getting worse. That's the point. He's lying to the British people if he thinks that, you know, quoting that reduction...
He's lying generally. What about his overarching claim? He said the litmus test for a prime minister is, does he leave the country in a better state than when he took over? Well, he's trying to claim that two-year Keir, that his 2 years in charge of this country has been a scene of steady improvement. The country is in a much better state than when he took over. That is a lie. The country is palpably and demonstrably a lot worse than when he took over. He's ruined it.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating, and the reason he's been booted out, and the reason the Labour Party...
Fired by his own party.
Fired by his own party, and the Labour Party's polling at 17%, is because he's been a flipping disaster. And, you know, he mentioned three things. He mentioned immigration, legal immigration, illegal migration, then he talked about shutting down hotels, dispersing, as they are now doing, illegal migrants into the bosom of civil British society. So we don't know where they are. We can't keep tabs on them. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know anything about these people. They've entered our country illegally without papers. As far as I'm concerned, they're all criminals because they broke into the United Kingdom. They have no right to be here. So the three claims he made were false. But you can look at any metric of this government's performance, and every single one of those metrics will be bad. And of course, the big one is the economy. Debt has continued out of control. Taxation is much higher than it was when he came into office. Public services are broken. Local authorities are broken. Our criminal justice system is broken. Our NHS is broken. Our roads are broken. On my way home tonight, I was just feeling the thuds in the road. Every time I go over a pothole, there's some expletive or the other comes out against Sadiq Khan. You know, why the hell can't our roads in London be capable of taking giving us a soft ride in our cars? Every single metric you look at in this country, we are worse off. And yet, government borrowing continues, and yet taxation continues. Keir Starmer is an unmitigated disaster, and Burnham will be a similar unmitigated disaster. Anyone who thinks they're going to get a Burnham bounce, they're wrong. They're going to get burnt by Burnham.
Let's talk about Burnham now. The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, has delivered his initial, somewhat brief but withering verdict. Watch this.
He's extremely liberal, extremely. So that means he probably won't open up the North Sea. You know, I gave Keir Starmer some pretty good advice. I said, open up the North Sea. I have had every oil company come to see me. Sir, could you give us access to the UK? We would do anything to drill in the North Sea.
He also said, Ben, he was asked... Andy Burnham, what do you know about him? He said, I don't know, I guess he's the mayor of a town or something, mayor of a town or something. Look, I mean, Donald Trump is quite right. What is Andy Burnham going to do about the North Sea? It is a massive roadblock to growth, to our economy that Ed Miliband has set up. Will he unblock that roadblock? And when Donald Trump said, what is he, the mayor of a town or something? It's quite funny, but there's a problem there. You know, it's around the world, no one knows who the hell Andy Burnham is. And now you come to think of it, not many people in Britain know who he is. And yet, we think now in 22 days, he will be the Prime Minister. I mean, what is going on here? But him not being known internationally is a problem.
Well, he's not, and he's got no grasp of government. He's been out of office for 16 years, running the mayoralty of Manchester. And frankly, that's quite a cushy job. You just sit around opening schools and cutting ribbons and glad-handing people and pretending to be an advocate for British.
And then closing schools when it's a hot day, yeah?
Yeah, and closing schools. More often than not, ending up... don't get me on to Bridget Phillipson. I mean, absolutely...
Well, I will in a minute, actually. But carry on about... let's do Burnham and Trump first. Go on.
Yeah, so, I mean, Trump... I love Trump's response. I watch Trump, and many people find his manner of delivery difficult to cope with. But his approach to Burnham, I thought, was absolutely spot on. You know, he's liberal. He's not going to sort the problems out. You've got a problem with immigration. You've got a problem with the North Sea. You've got a problem with your energy. Sort it out. And he's right.
Well, he's a left-wing socialist, just like Keir Starmer, and therefore he won't do any of the sensible measures, won't bring in any of the sensible measures that Donald Trump has been suggesting now for 2 years. You know, open up drilling in the North Sea, stop your migrants coming in, and forget about net zero. And yet, but of course, these Labour people, they're sort of joined at the hip to all that nonsense. Well, you mentioned Bridget Phillipson earlier. Let's move on to her. She's the Education Secretary. She got a drubbing in Prime Minister's questions yesterday from the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch. Let's have a look.
Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Just, someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster.
She's right, isn't she? That's the problem about Bridget Phillipson. She is a spiteful class warrior, you know, slapped VAT on all the public schools, the private schools, as it were, causing mass unemployment. Loads of kids lose their school because of class reasons. She doesn't like private education. And when Kemi magnificently destroyed her yesterday, first of all, Bridget didn't like it, nor did that little science secretary, Liz Kendall. They ambushed Kemi after question time and sort of gave her a real rollicking, and Kemi Badenoch just stared him out and said, I ain't going to stop. You are a spiteful class warrior, so butt out. So Kemi won hands down. But Keir Starmer's defence of her, and her defence of herself.
It was an extraordinary defence.
Keir Starmer says, she grew up in poverty. She grew up in poverty. Who cares? What's that got to do with it? This inverted snobbery, this inverse snobbery of the Labour, these Labour ideologues, these ideological socialists, is pathetic. As Kemi Badenoch later said on social media to Bridget Phillipson, I grew up on a council estate is no defence for being completely useless at your job. She's right, isn't she?
Absolutely. And the same defence was offered up for Rachel Reeves. Do you remember when I think we discussed it the other day when she started blubbing in Parliament? Everyone said, well, you know, oh, poor thing, she's under pressure. Well, you don't expect the Chancellor of the Exchequer ever to be not under pressure. You expect her to cope with the pressure. You expect Bridget Phillipson to do her job. But, you know, I think Kemi is getting better and better at the dispatch box. But the only criticism I would make of Kemi is that Phillipson is not a class warrior. A class warrior is someone who wishes to improve the lot of the working classes. But actually, by taxing private schools, what they've done is force the closure of hundreds of private schools across the country. The private schools that were which were just about making ends meet, allowing the working and middle classes to educate their children privately if they could just about afford to do it, improving the lot of their children, creating aspiration for their children through their better education. And what Phillipson's done is absolutely slammed that on the head. And you might not know, Kevin, but I can tell you I run a property company, is my sort of day job. And we are seeing hundreds and hundreds of former private schools being sold with vacant possession at the moment, often in receivership, because they haven't been able to meet their tax bills.
It's carnage, Ben. It's carnage.
Carnage. It is destruction. It is scarring of the economy. And all the children who were forced out of these private schools are now in the state sector. And the state sector couldn't cope before. And now they're having to take all these other children on. The ratio of children to teachers is a fundamental ratio. in the betterment of education. And that ratio is increasing. We're getting more and more pupils per teacher. As Kemi said, the number of teachers has gone down. This is all damaging to education. Phillipson needs to stop worrying about the provenance of her heritage, and she needs to start focusing on her job.
It's irrelevant that she grew up on a council estate.
Irrelevant.
A lot of people grew up in poverty. It doesn't matter if you're a Secretary of State, but of course it's the ultimate defence. She can't be wrong. She grew up on a council estate. This is a window into their limited worldview. It's pathetic. Let's quickly talk about, Ben, while you're on, about, well, I called it yesterday, asinine snowflakery, our hysteria over climate change, because we've had a few nice days. It's hot and sunny. In the old days, when I was younger, we used to call hot and sunny weather nice days. It's a nice day. Now we call it, a death risk. Here's sort of a roundup of some of our reaction to the fact it is pretty hot out there. I say I love it. I think it's great, and I think millions of Brits agree with me. It's better than raining, isn't it? Better than freezing cold. Yeah, exactly. Right, this is what's happened in the last couple of days. This is incredible in my view. More than 1,000 schools have closed because it's hot, because it's sunny. That encompasses around about, very rough estimate, could it be as many as 1 million kids whose parents now won't be able to go to work, many of them, because they're going to look after their kids. This is ridiculous. There's no need to close schools just because it's hot. Meanwhile, BBC staff have been told to work from home, where you'd expect that from the idiots at the state broadcaster. There's a hosepipe ban in Kent. Of course there is. And so on and so forth. Businesses closing, sending their staff home early. It's just pathetic. Nice days. We've got to stop this.
It's pathetic. And again, it's just another example of where we've lost this traditional British stiff upper lip. A bit of heat, so what? Open your windows, close your curtains, get a fan, teach your children what they need to learn, allow your parents to go to work, stop all this namby-pamby, we can't cope with anything the minute it gets outside the bounds of a very tight, narrow, comfortable position in which we wish to exist in our lives. No, having 35 degrees centigrade is no reason not to go to work or be educated. It's extraordinary. And the other thing, I'll just quickly say, Kevin, if I may, every day this week, I've been hearing prophecies of 42 degrees centigrade. And every day this week, the news has reported where we've had another record-breaking temperature today of 35 or 36. We never hit this aspirational target of 42.
I mentioned this earlier, Ben. This is serious sensationalism by a lot of media outlets who are talking in terms of Britain's record 40-degree apocalyptic heat wave. We haven't come anywhere near 40 degrees.
No. It's just absurd. And it's absurd. We used to absolutely relish this as children. We'd get the hosepipe out and dance around under the water.
Yeah, by the way, to go back to Kent, the South East Water has, of course, imposed the traditional hosepipe ban. I'll give them one thing. At least they have actually done it in hot weather. They usually impose hosepipe bans when it's absolutely pelting down with torrential rain. So that's one refreshing change. But in the meantime, a load of parents, in particular in Kent, which is the area that South East Water covers, are furious. They say, listen, we're trying to fill our kids' paddling pools in this immense heat. Come on, leave us alone. Meanwhile, councils all over the country, particularly in Camden, where I live, are going around telling homeowners, you've got to rip out your air conditioning units. That does not comply with net zero rules and regulations. This is absurd.
It is absurd. And on the air conditioning units, if the government is doing the job it claims to be doing, which is increasing renewable energy, why does it offend them if some of that renewable energy is used to power an air conditioning unit? Why? Because it should theoretically, it's not adding to any carbon emissions. It's coming off clean energy. The government is at sixes and sevens with itself. And there is this climate emergency that they wish to perpetrate, which they wish to make us fear, in that they can then deliver their net zero agenda. You need a bogeyman before you can have the solution to the bogeyman. And that's what they're doing. It's just, scaremongering.
Last point, Ben. You've got a lot of followers on social media. Will you join Kev's campaign to stop Keir lying about his record as Prime Minister? He's gaslighting us day after day after day, telling us he's done a great job. I'm saying that we all hit social media, all of us, and just say, no, you haven't. Stop lying to us. Stop gaslighting us. You have been the worst Prime Minister in history, probably, and I include Liz Truss. Let's not let him get away with this. Are you with me, Ben?
I'm with you. I'll post it on X immediately after this interview.
Excellent. Get stuck in. Let's not let him gaslight the nation. Ben, fantastic to have you on. Come on again very, very soon. That's Ben Habib, former leader of Advance UK. Let me know what you think of some of the issues we were talking about. There's so many of these cabinet secretaries in this lousy Labour government are just useless, aren't they? Ed Miliband's ruining the country, ruining the economy. Bridget Phillipson's a disaster. As Kemi Badenoch pointed out, there are fewer teachers now than when she started. Her big campaign was to get more teachers into the classroom. And a poll a couple of days ago revealed that 0% of Britain's teachers think she is doing a good job. 0. Not a single teacher in the country thinks she's doing a good job. So, you spiteful little class warrior, why don't you quit and do all the schools and all the pupils and all the teachers a favour? Just a thought. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley about this shocking case in Dubai. A young British girl is in prison, accused of murder after she stabbed a British guy to death after saying that he was beating the hell out of her. So is she a domestic violence victim or is she a murderer? That is the question. We'll talk about that next. Until then, stay tuned.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just going to go into Peter Plexi in just a second, but I'm just rather concerned by this text I've had from one of my marvellous audience, JKGT, he or she calls themselves. So JKGT says, Kev, Keir Starmer is not perfect. No Prime Minister is, but he is definitely better than the 5 previous Prime Ministers that came before him by a mile. Well, I'll take just as bad, if you like, as Sunak, Johnson, May, Cameron, all of those losers, Liz Truss. I'll take just as bad, but he's not better than them. So, JKGT, since you say that he's better than those previous 5 ministers by a mile, could you text me back or give me a ring if you like, 03444991000. Since you think he's such a great Prime Minister, can you tell me one thing he has achieved that was any good? A single achievement. A single achievement. Because I can't think of any. All he's done is made everything worse. I think he's the worst Prime Minister. Against stiff opposition, I accept that. Boris Johnson, what a mess he was. But I say Keir Starmer is the worst Prime Minister in living memory, probably the worst of all time, potentially. Certainly worse than Johnson, and Johnson was a disaster, and probably worse than Liz Truss as well, who only lasted 43 days. So, you know, JKGT, you tell me one thing he achieved and maybe I'll listen to you. Let me know. Right, let's go over now to former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Hi, Pete.
Good evening.
So this British so-called influencer, she's 23 years old. Her name is Brooke George. She's a former John Lewis shop assistant from Gravesend in Kent. She's gone over to Dubai to take pictures with this guy she sort of met on Facebook. She'd gone over to see him once before, said she had the time of her life, went back, and she claims that it all went sour and he started beating her up. And that she, in self-defence, picked up a kitchen knife and stabbed him, and it killed him. She then tried to escape from Dubai, but got arrested at the airport and is currently incarcerated in one of those hellhole Dubai prisons. Campaigners are calling for her to be treated as a victim of domestic abuse. She may well be, she might not be. But what I was going to ask you, Pete, I mean, these kids, so many of the young people, oh, I'm an influencer. No, you're not. You're a shop assistant. You know, these people who say, I'm an influencer, you know, because I've got 50 followers on TikTok and here I am in a bikini. You know, great. Yeah, well done. They go over to Dubai because they think it's the promised land. And they seem to feel they've gone somewhere like Brighton. There's no difference to Britain because there's so many Brits in Dubai. And they find themselves, whenever they get in any trouble, even minor trouble, like sort of kissing each other in public or something, they realise that they've set up shop in a very, very different culture. And it sometimes, often costs them dearly. I would suggest that Brooke George is one of them.
Yes, indeed. And of course, if these circumstances had happened in the UK, then you and I would be forbidden from discussing this case because they're awaiting trial, quite simply. She's awaiting her trial, so of course the laws of contempt would bar us from broadcasting about a case that is yet to be tried in front of a judge and jury. But here we go. Here's another big difference in Dubai. Guess what? They don't have trial by jury. It will be a panel of judges that decide whether this young lady is guilty or innocent. And neither you or I know all of the evidence. We only know some of the facts as they have been reported. I think we're going to have to sit back, wait and see how the trial progresses and see what the outcome of it is. But I've been to Dubai a couple of times in recent years, both times for work. It's really not my kind of place. I don't like living in an autocratic regime, although Keir Starmer's done his very best to make Britain as autocratically run as he possibly could. But most of the people that I met out there, the expat community, they were shallow, they were vain, they were tax avoiders, and they were dull.
She claims that so she hooked up on Facebook with this British guy who's 26 years old and is now dead. She says that a few months back he said, "Come on over to Dubai," you know. And he took pictures of her while she fantasised about being a model and an influencer. She's not. She's a shop assistant from Gravesend. It's these kids who are so, you know, mesmerised by this nonsense. You can't be an influencer, you know, if you've only got 100,000 followers. Anyway, so she says that he took her over there first off for a week, took pictures of her so she could look glamorous and be an influencer. And she said she had the time of her life. He invited her back and it all turned sour. He started hitting her. And the detained, and then in self-defence, she grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed him. Now, detained in Dubai, an organisation that looks after the interests of people who do get into trouble, British people who get into trouble in the United Arab Emirates. They say that she should be treated as a victim of domestic abuse. Now, I'm not saying that she's not, but we don't know that. And I'll tell you something that won't look good in her favour was the fact that they arrested her as she was trying to get the hell out of Dodge onto an aeroplane and out of Dubai. So she could well, we don't know what the truth is, but she could well have constructed this story. And let me put it this way, without me wishing to back the Dubai authorities or the police there, you as a copper, I'm sure you would agree with me, or an ex-copper, that you would be sceptical of that story, wouldn't you?
A young man's lost his life, so that, of course, is very sad. But any investigation has to be not a search for proof of a theory, but an unshakable search for the truth, however uncomfortable or inconvenient that may be. So I would like to think, although I do have a degree of scepticism about this, I would like to think that the Dubai police investigation will be a search for the truth, so that if she was lawfully acting in self-defence, she will be acquitted. However, if that is not the case and she violently attacked this man, then she'll be convicted of murder. But we'll have to see all the evidence as it pans out, as it's played out in front of a court. I do know that the Foreign Office have already made contact, so I'm sure there will be campaigning by her mother and her family, perhaps for a release. But I think, as you pointed out, right at the very top of this chat between you and me, Kev, it's a different country. It's got different rules. It operates entirely differently. And it's not always the golden land that people think it is.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, she's currently being detained in the Bur Dubai police station in their jail, though, which is pretty notorious. A British tourist died there in 2011, a guy called Lee Bradley Brown. So appalling are the conditions there. So we have some sympathy for her there. A lady called Rada Sterling is chief executive of Detained in Dubai, which is a crisis support organisation for Brits who get in trouble there. Rada Sterling said, Brooke George reached for a knife after being attacked and punched in the face. Authorities must treat her as a domestic violence survivor while they investigate. Well, that is to 100% accept her story, as I say. You know, I have a great sympathy for the poor girl. I'm sure she's going through a nightmare. But, you know this. When people stab someone to death, they are wont to, shall we say, come up with creative reasons for doing that, aren't they? I mean, they don't go around saying, yeah, you know what, he really got on my nerves, so I picked up a knife and I killed him just for the hell of it. Do you know what I mean? You can understand the police being sceptical.
If we have properly trained detectives and good forensic examiners, the truth will be told by the wounds to the victim, any wounds to this young woman, and the crime scene. Blood spatter analysis, for example, gives a very clear indication of how often a knife was used what angle it was used from, what hand it may have been held in, how many times it will have been thrust. So this case will pan out. The wounds on the victim, as I say, any wounds to this suspect and the crime scene together should paint a very clear, irrefutable picture of what exactly happened. We're just going to have to wait and see what that picture tells us.
Last point, Pete. Thanks again for joining me. This is the wake-up call that people like Brooke George often get. You know, they get into a bit of trouble and then they learn, if they're found guilty of their alleged offences, the kind of punishments that they dish out in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. They find out they're not the sort of punishments that we dish out here in Britain. If she's found guilty of this killing, in other words, if she becomes a convicted murderer in the United Arab Emirates, this is what she will face: execution by a firing squad. That's shocking, isn't it? But it's a wake-up call to all these young people who think Dubai is like some county of Britain, like a south coast. Oh, it's like going to the south of France or Brighton for the weekend. It's not. It's a very different culture.
The most important thing I think anybody can do when travelling the world is to learn about the cultures of where you're going and respect them, and understand that you are in other people's country. I so wish people would respect our values and cultures and our rules, but sadly, many, many don't. So when you go out there, understand it is a different country, different rules apply, it's a different culture, and act accordingly.
Pete, thanks for joining us. You know, our best wishes to Brooke George. We don't know the truth of this case, but she's obviously going through a nightmare, and our thoughts are, of course, with her family as well, and indeed the family of the poor guy that ended up dead. But good to talk to you, Pete. Thanks for coming on. Peter Blexley there, former Met Police detective. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, let's talk to you for the rest of the show. I've got lots of calls. I'll read out some messages, maybe any WhatsApp voice notes. If I've got any, I'll play those out as well. So get on the phone, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's read a couple of messages, then we'll go to the phones. We've got news that he's Keir Starmer. This is from Brian. Starmer will now retire to concentrate on his pet project. That is writing his West End musical entitled Breakfast Clubs, the Musical. There you go. That's his future career. This is another one saying, I wonder if Smear Starmer ever thinks about what his grandchildren will think of him when they are old enough to read the history books. Well, with the current Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, the chances are they won't be able to read because no one will have taught them properly. So let's not worry too much about that. This is from Fern in Glasgow. That convicted pedo, Hugh Edwards, should have been banned from social media internet instead of trying to ban innocent children who've all browsed online responsibly. That's a good point. That's a good point. Should he be allowed onto social media? I mean, I sort of think, because I'm a libertarian, I think he should be. And then people should make up their minds about whether or not they want to read his claptrap. It's up to them, I suppose. But he should be in jail, is where he should be. He should have got a year, 2 years for accessing those horrible pictures of children being sexually abused. That's what Hugh Edwards got up to. He's the man who announced the death of the Queen, who is now clearly struggling with the concept of the death of his career. No one wants to hear from you, Edwards. Shut your trap, go away, be contrite. Might help, eh? Let's go to the phones, shall we? Let's talk to Samantha in Scunthorpe. Hi, Samantha.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. Although I rang a while ago, so I'm sorry if this is...
That's all right. No, you say what you've got to say.
Yeah, it was. I actually left work, turned the radio on, and you were talking about Bridget Phillipson and the spat that happened after PM.
You mean the spiteful class warrior Bridget? Yes.
Yeah, she does. She does come across as being just exactly that, really. Yeah. But anyway, I was just listening yesterday. Dan Hodges was on, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, he thought that Andy Burnham would want to put more females in the cabinet, you know. And, you know, I groan because I think, oh, crikey, you know, why do they keep on with this? You know,
there's quite a few, aren't there, already, Samantha? There are quite a few women in the cabinet, I think.
Yeah, but he will, according to Dan Hodges, you know, he thought that he's supposed to be in the know. He thought he would want to increase that, you know, he would want to have more women. And really, it should just be the best person, shouldn't it? Man or woman. Although, I mean,
couldn't agree with you more, Samantha. Yeah, I don't care if a cabinet secretary is a guy, is a girl, a female, or trans, or exactly. I don't care if they're black, white, whatever. I don't give a damn. I just want them to be qualified for the job. They should be chosen regardless of any other factors. Are they the best person for the job? If Andy Burnham is thinking along those quota lines that you just suggested, oh, I've got to get more women into the cabinet, that's not a good sign. Don't you agree?
No, it's tedious, though, isn't it? You know,
yes, it is tedious. Well, you know, it's Labour, you know, they're obsessed with all this nonsense. What do you think, what kind of a Prime Minister do you think Andy Burnham's going to be, Samantha?
Well, I don't think he'll be any better than the last one. That, you know...
That bad, eh?
Well, yeah, I'm not hopeful, so...
No, nor am I.
Dire, isn't it?
No, it's you know, I think we might be going from bad to worse, which doesn't bear thinking about. Samantha, what an excellent call. Thank you very much. Call me again. Samantha in Scunthorpe there. Let's quickly squeeze one in, another call before we go to break, and that's Josie in Leicester. Hi, Josie. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right.
So, right. From the last couple of days on tour, Starmer, the useless one, has been saying he's going to return to the backbenches.
Yes,
yeah?
he is. Right? Yeah.
Right. So who's going to orchestrate this whole scenario now with Burnham?
Oh, I don't think he's going to go like right now. Look, the story there is that Andy Burnham pleaded. Starmer's going around today saying, I'm going to make sure there's an orderly transition, you know, to do my job, to service. He's lying. Andy Burnham said to Starmer, for God's sake, give me 3 months. Give me till September, because I need to get my act together. I need to get my plans together. Please help me with this orderly transition so I can have everything in place, and give me 3 months. Keir Starmer, petulant, childish, little adolescent, hissy fit. No, I'm going now. So he's going right now. In some ways, I don't blame him. He's been betrayed by all of his cabinet. He's thinking, right, I'm off. However, that has completely hamstrung Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham may well be our Prime Minister now in 22 days. Almost certainly will be, actually. And Keir Starmer will not have helped him at all. It's only after that, Josie, that he will go to the backbenches. Until then, he'll continue to pretend to be our leader. But he is not helping Burnham at all. He's trying to undermine him because he's a selfish, little, arrogant, conceited man who thinks he's so brilliant they should never have sacked him. But he's not brilliant. He's rubbish, isn't he?
Totally, but what I'm saying, what these backbenchers did to Starmer, you know, for getting stuff through, and he didn't get stuff through, he's going to now ruin his next 2 years if he gets in. If Burnham had any sense, I'd call a general election.
Well, the only thing is, I do think, you know, it's not my kind of sense, but I don't think Andy Burnham is stupid. And turkeys don't vote for Christmas. And if he calls a snap election, he knows chances are he'll lose it. So that ain't going to happen, Josie. He is going to be crowned. It's a coronation. Downing Street is going to be Coronation Street. Isn't that special? Not exactly democratic, is it?
Not at all. No, not at all.
Well, welcome to Labour's Britain, Labour's broken Britain. Josie, excellent call. Thank you for ringing. Let's go to break. More calls when we come back. Stay where you are.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is from Gerald. Good text here. Hey, Kev, wouldn't it be fun if Andy Burnham was secretly posh, like the new member for Arbroath, and his real name is actually Andrew Mountbatten Burnham? Yeah. I'm the king of the north. Yeah, I like that idea, yeah. Is he a fraud like old Laura Bird, who pretends she's Scottish when she's actually English? We're going to talk about that now because Laura Jane has rung in from Hampshire. Hi, Laura Jane. Yeah, that Laura Bird story is bizarre, isn't it?
Well, I can fill you in a little bit more on that.
Oh, good. Go on.
My family is Scottish. Well, half of me is Scottish. I should
Which half?
qualify that.
Which half? The bottom half or the top?
My
No, I'm being
father's
facetious.
side goes back to the 11th century, and from about the 17th century onwards, they kept marrying English people. So my great grandmother, etc. So she was brought up in a little town called Kirriemuir, which was originally part of my family's estate. and she went to primary school in Glen Isla,
Right.
which was called the Isla Primary. Glen, as you know, is a Scottish for valley. She then went to a private school in Dundee, paid for by her grandmother, her English grandmother, and she acquired this accent, which sounds very much like what we say in. I was at Edinburgh University, the Morningside accent,
that sort of thing.
Maggie Smith did in her wonderful film,
The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie.
Brodie. Anyway,
that kind of voice, that kind of haughty Scottish voice. Yeah.
Very, very posh.
The posh Edinburgh Scottish accent. Yeah.
And then she landed up at LSE, where she got her left-wing tendencies.
Of course, yeah.
Basically, her parents, she fell out with her mother. She was brought up by her father, so she likes to consider herself Scottish, but you know, she spent most of her adult time in London at LSE.
So she adopted a sort of Scottish accent because she thought that was a bit more sort of politically acceptable than having a cut-glass English accent. I think that's what's going on with Laura Bird. Her real name is, have you ever heard of anyone called Pyla, P-Y-L-A?
Yes.
Pyla Laura Bird -Leakey.
Yes. And her Leakey ancestry is actually quite interesting. Her great-great-great-grandparents were paleontologists. Her family is quite
fossil collectors or fossil
collectors, exactly. But you know, it's for me, it's quite interesting.
But what do you think? What do you think, Laura Jane? Just before you go, I mean, I think there's something interesting here, possibly something amiss. If she went round, if she's got her real accent is clearly cut-glass English.
Exactly.
If she went round trying to get the votes of the good people of Arbroath and Broughty Ferry with this sort of fake Scottish accent, she's surely misrepresenting herself, isn't she?
Absolutely. I mean, totally. And that embarrassing session in taking the oath with her fingers crossed. I mean, that really, really is wrong. I'm amazed that the Speaker of the House didn't call her up on that or ask her to retake the oath, because it's not right.
Well, it's not right, but I think a more serious issue is how she represented herself to the people of that constituency. If she went round saying, why don't you vote for me and I can represent your interests in Westminster? And actually her voice is this, she speaks like this, which seems to be the case. She's conning them. She's conning them into thinking, I'm a local. You know?
And it's in Angus, the county of Angus, which I'd just like to put an aside. We're talking about the tax, which is being the king. My uncle persuaded the Queen to pay tax. He was Lord Chamberlain, and he said, it is time you pay tax. So he reorganised the whole of the monarchy finances and insisted that included paying tax, which was the right thing to do. I know it's much more complicated than that, but I'm quite proud of the fact that that he persuaded the royal family to pay tax, because it's the right thing to do.
Blimey, Laura Jane, you got a hell of a family story. Really good to talk to you. That was excellent. Call me again. I know you will. Thank you. Good to talk to you. Laura Jane there. Now, breaking news, folks. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has actually done something very sensible. She is apparently set to sack Mike Tapp. He's the MP for Dover, but he's also the Immigration Minister. She is set to sack Mike Tapp as Immigration Minister for him making, quotes, unauthorised remarks. It comes after he wrote an article calling for foreign care workers to be exempt from Shabana Mahmood's immigration reforms. Shabana's not having that. Shabana, if you're watching, get rid of that guy. Against stiff opposition, I think he might be the stupidest man in Parliament. He's an absolute cretin. So get rid of him. He's the guy who goes onto the White Cliffs of Dover with his dog, plays all this music, this patriotic music, and says, you know, Labour are really getting to grips with the migrant crisis. And in the background, you can see the small boats all coming over, an armada from France. He is a fool. So get rid of him. Well done, Shabana. Mike Tapp, Immigration Minister, set to be sacked. Yeah, we got time for more calls. One now from Elizabeth in Chorley. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi.
You want to talk about the weather?
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about the weather. It's nothing.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Meeting about the weather.
Yeah. Whatever happened to those days when you and I probably date back to those days when we would wake up in the morning, it'd be very hot and sunny, and what we would say is, this is a nice day, isn't it? Now we go, it's a death risk, close all the schools. What's happened to us?
I remember the summer of '76. I was 10.
Right.
The school wasn't out then, but we still went to school.
Of course we did. Let's close the school because it's a hot day.
On our arms, and it was all good to go.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, Elizabeth, I think as many as 1 million kids might be off school because the weather's hot.
Yeah,
now,
well...
How many kids who've gone into school? A lot of schools didn't close. So how many kids who've gone into school in these hot conditions have suffered? Have any died? Any been taken to hospital?
No.
No, of course not.
My point is...
Yeah, go on.
They've called a Cobra meeting.
Have they? I didn't. A Cobra meeting about the weather. Oh, God.
They call a Cobra meeting about undocumented men.
Oh, it's on. No, so it's
over the channel.
Okay, so it's not about the weather. Okay. Well, we'll look into that.
It is actually, but it's about.
They're having a Cobra meeting about the weather.
It's skewed. The whole thing is skewed.
Of course, it's Keir Starmer, isn't it? But mind you, he's been a terrible, absolutely triumphant success, he keeps telling us. But I'm not sure he has been, really. Elizabeth, thanks for calling. Really good call. Thank you. Elizabeth in Chorley. Peter Cardwell will be in just a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. But in the meantime, let's sign off in the excellent company of our favourite caller, Georgina from London. Hi, Georgina.
Hello, Kevin. Well, I just wanted to ring up and tell you that Keir Starmer obviously hasn't heard the saying, self-appraisal is no recommendation. And let me tell you, that man has done nothing that's been good for this country. You know, I'm going to rename him Apocalypse Boy because he has taken our country...
Apocalypse Now? How about that?
Well, we're living it. We're living the dream, Kevin. There's nothing he's done for our country that has benefited the country or the people. We haven't even got borders, Kevin. This is an absolute joke. The man shouldn't even get a pension because as far as I'm concerned, he's been more trouble than he's worth and he cannot tell the truth. There's no truth in that man whatsoever. He's lied from beginning to end, and he's still lying now. The man couldn't lie straight in bed, Kevin. It's an embarrassment. He's an embarrassment, and the sooner he's gone, the better. And Andy Burnham will be no better than Keir Starmer. In fact, he'll probably be worse.
Yeah, the king is dead. Long live the king of the north. Andy Burnham is a straw man, a hollow man. We don't know anything about him. But the signs are things can only get worse. This is a disaster, Georgina. But it's a lovely